Chapter 2:16. In the southern region, 1,000 miles south of the Hundred Flowers Valley, there was a forbidden zone for life called the Serene Marsh. It was dark inside the serene swamp. There was no sunlight. Dead wood, black mud, corrosion. The air was filled with marsh gas. Mortals could not survive more than a few minutes here. In the middle of the north of the Serene Marsh. Suddenly, the black mud bubbled violently. Buzz, there was a tremor, and the black fog surged. The black mud trembled, and the entire ground seemed to be on the verge of erupting. A pitch-black claw emerged from the black mud like a mountain and slowly rose into the air. In the blink of an eye, it had risen several hundred meters. It looked like a mountain that had been chopped by an axe. Boom! Clumps of black mud fell from the claws and hit the ground. The black mud shook, and the sound of explosions rang out continuously. The giant claw shook vigorously, and strands of blood-red chi rolled out from the claw, wrapping around the entire claw. A terrifying, baleful aura soared into the sky. The sky instantly turned blood-red. Swish! At this moment, hundreds of figures arrived. Their leader wore a blood-colored robe. His face was pale, and his two blood-red eyes seemed to be able to see through everything. He was Blood Knight's general, Soul Fiend. Hundreds of blood-robed figures followed behind Hun Sha. "Congratulations, General. You've succeeded." Hun Sha's lips curled up, and he waved his hand lightly. "It's still too early to come to an agreement. Let's wait for the old Ancestor to completely revive first." "General, you are too modest." "That's right, General. You managed to resurrect Ancestor Ingo in a short 500 years. If his lord were to find out about this, he would definitely remember this as a great merit." Hearing this, Hun Sha's lips curled up. "This isn't just my work. If it weren't for everyone working together, we wouldn't have been able to discover that there's an absolute baleful meridian that could devour life force from all directions for the Patriarch's use. It'd save us a lot of time. Moreover, it won't alert the humans." Hun Sha said, "General, we are too ashamed to show our faces. This is clearly your contribution alone." "That's right, General. Your breadth of mind is enough to support the entire world." The sound of flattery could be heard continuously. Hun Sha's lips curled up, and his face was filled with glee. He looked at the giant claw that was hundreds of meters tall and nodded slightly. Buzz, the ground continued to shake, and a huge body slowly sat up. Then the body stood up. His 1,000-meter-tall body soared into the clouds. He shook off the black mud on his body and revealed his original appearance. The giant was clad in blood-colored armor and wore a mask on his face. There were two giant horns on his head that seemed capable of tearing apart the heavens. A terrifying, baleful aura surged in all directions like a tsunami. On the back of the longhorn giant was a giant hook that was hundreds of meters long. That kind of heaviness and irresistibility was daunting. When Hun Sha saw this, his eyes lit up. They knelt down at the same time. "Welcome back, Ancestor." His voice reverberated through the air. The long-horned giant turned his head and looked at Hun Sha and the others, sighing heavily. "My descendant is actually weak to such an extent. Trash doesn't need to live." With that, the long-horned giant lifted his foot and stomped down heavily from the sky. Bang! The air was torn apart, and the sound of explosions rang out continuously. Seeing this scene, the blood-robed men's expressions changed drastically. They used all kinds of methods to escape. However, it was too late. "No!" Shouts kept ringing out. Boom! There was a loud noise, earth-shattering. A shock wave mixed with mud, with the longhorn giant as the center shook out in all directions. Boom! Boom! The blood-robed men's bodies exploded into blood mist. The formed bloodlines converged and were swallowed by the longhorn giant. "So thin, too weak." The longhorn giant muttered to himself and shook his head for a while. Looking down, he saw Hun Sha lying on the ground, struggling. "You're not bad, worth living." The longhorn giant looked at Hun Sha and nodded slightly. "Let's go," the longhorn giant said. "Yes, Ancestor." Hun Sha nodded repeatedly. The longhorn giant stepped forward. However, he had just taken a step. Clang! The sound of a zither spread from the ground. The sound of a zither was like silk wrapped around the longhorn giant. Boom! There was a loud noise. The longhorn giant fell head first into the mud. Woo! His body trembled wildly, as if he was electrocuted, unable to move at all. Quick! Break the underground fiend vein. It's sucking my power. He used all his strength to finish this sentence. After that, the longhorn giant continued to tremble wildly. Every time it trembled, it could make the surrounding mud splash 100 meters high. Hunsha's face changed dramatically. Without thinking, he used all kinds of means to attack the underground fiend vein. Not good. This fiend vein has changed. It's a supreme blessing vein. Damn, what is this sound? It's so uncomfortable to hear. Who is playing the zither down there? Damn it, stop it. Who did it? Get out here. Hunsha roared again and again, but it was useless to use all his means. All the attacks were like mud oxen entering the sea, swallowed by the supreme blessing vein. No, Hunsha let out an unwilling roar. After 500 years of hard work, he returned to the beginning. Looking at the longhorn giant whose breath was getting weaker and weaker, Hunsha's face was full of unwillingness. I'll help you. At this time, a blood-robed figure rushed over and appeared in front of Hunsha. Looking at this figure, Hunsha was shocked. Tiansha, you broke through? Yes. With the help of the Lord, I have reached the demon realm. After saying that, Tiansha grabbed with his right hand, and waves of blood-red aura rushed into the longhorn giant's body. Ah! Tiansha roared at the sky, grabbed the longhorn giant, rushed into the sky, and rushed out. After a while, they finally walked out of the serene swamp. Putting down the longhorn giant, Tiansha secretly wiped his cold sweat. Brother Tiansha, thank you. Hunsha's face was full of gratitude. No need. We are all working for the Lord. It's what I should do. Tiansha said. Shall we carry the patriarch back now? Hunsha asked. Okay. The two walked to the longhorn giant and were about to lift him up. Let me go. At this time, a roar shook the two back a few steps. The longhorn giant sat up, his face full of anger. He clenched his fists, his joints cracking. Damn, I finally recovered a bit of strength, but 99% was swallowed. If this goes on, I won't be able to hold on for long. The longhorn giant swept his eyes on Tiansha and Hunsha. You too. Do you know the nearest place where the human race has the most and the strongest cultivation base? Patriarch, the nearest place from here is the South Prefecture Immortal City. There are millions of people there, Tiansha said. Then you too. Come with me to play some small games. The longhorn giant said. Hearing this, Tiansha's face changed slightly. Patriarch, no. Why? Patriarch, the human race has the protection of the godly cunning immortal. He can calculate everything. If we go rashly, we will fall into his trap. Tiansha said. Godly cunning immortal? Never heard of it. Where did this little bug come from? I just swallowed a few million people. It's not a big deal. Let's go. After saying that, the longhorn giant stepped forward, step by step, toward the South Prefecture Immortal City. Chapter 217. In a cave in the 100 Flowers Valley, Huatong slowly opened her eyes. Her face was filled with shock. She touched her face with her hand and retracted it, as if she had been electrocuted. This is unbelievable. My life force has been completely restored. My strength has also broken through. Huatong stood up in a daze, her face filled with disbelief. The many elders behind her had the same expression as her. All of them looked like young girls in their 20s, full of vitality. Furthermore, everyone's strength had broken through one after another. From an old woman to a young girl, this feeling was like a dream. Mother, you? Hua Xilan looked at Huatong, her face filled with disbelief. These days, his mother had been pouring immortal energy into the immortal orchid every day. His face rapidly aged, and he became 70 or 80 years old. Moreover, those elders were the same. All of them had become extremely old. Who would have thought that the young masters playing would not only restore everyone's strength and enhance their talents, but it would also replenish the vitality they had lost? This method was simply unimaginable. The young master was completely different from the rumors. The young master's strength was far more than what the rumors said. It was 10 times or even 100 times stronger, okay? Young master, thank you. Hua Xilan walked in front of Sun Hao and bowed. Miss Xilan, you're welcome, Sun Hao said with a smile. Hua Tong led a group of elders forward. My 100 Flowers Valley will never forget young master's great kindness. If you have any requests, feel free to mention them. Hua Tong and the other elders bowed respectfully. Valley Master, you're welcome. Just give me some flowers later. Sun Hao said. Young master, this is not a problem. Hua Tong nodded slightly. She seemed to be in a difficult position and was about to speak. At this moment, Valley Master, a cry of surprise came from outside. Then a woman ran over. What is it? Hua Tong asked. Valley Master, all of the flowers in our 100 Flowers Valley have come back to life, and they have all evolved. Even those that have completely withered have all come back to life. The woman's voice trembled with excitement. What? Hearing this, Hua Tong was shocked. Releasing his spiritual will, he was left dumbfounded. The immortal mist in the valley surged and rose in spirals. 5-colored auspicious light filled the valley. From afar, it was a scene of exuberant vitality. Within the immortal mist, those peerless treasures and solitary treasures were unwilling to fall behind, and they all blossomed beautifully. Inside the valley, the fragrance of flowers filled the air. Seeing this scene, Hua Tong's body trembled with excitement. The heavens are truly blessing my 100 Flowers Valley. No, it was all thanks to the young master. Hua Tong looked at Sun Hao with gratitude. Young master, don't worry. As long as you like it, you can take it. Hua Tong said. Thank you, Valley Master. Sun Hao raised the corner of his mouth, secretly proud. As expected, his music also had extraordinary effects. Not a single thing taught by the system was ordinary. Growing flowers, restoring vitality, beautifying, which of these functions wasn't earth-shattering? I wonder if the zither music has any lethality? On TV, the 6-fingered zither demon was rather terrifying. It could kill people with sound waves. When he returned this time, he had to find a place to properly test out his various skills. Let's see if there are any skills that can deal additional damage. In other words, it was a direct injury. If there really was, would he still need to collect blessing points? In the future, he just needed to test how powerful he was. The more he thought, the more excited Sun Hao became. Suddenly, a bright blue light lit up, penetrating the entire cave. Sun Hao looked back, his pupils contracted, and a trace of surprise appeared on his face. It was not only Sun Hao who was surprised, but also the people of Huaxian Valley. They looked at the immortal orchid with shock on their faces. They saw the immortal orchid bloomed, and the petals lit up with dazzling light. The whole immortal orchid was growing rapidly. Among the orchids, there was a naked woman lying. Her graceful figure was shrouded in light and could not be seen clearly. Even so, it made people's blood boil. The woman slowly stood up, waved her right hand, and the orchids danced, turned into an orchid dress, and put it on her body. She walked slowly, her hair flying, and she walked towards Sun Hao step by step. Every step she took, orchids grew under her feet, and it looked breathtakingly beautiful. Before the person arrived, the orchid fragrance came first. Smelling it, it was refreshing. Seeing this scene, Hua Tong and others were full of surprise, and without thinking, they knelt down. Greetings, old ancestor. The neat voice resounded throughout the cave. Old ancestor? Old ancestor is a flower demon? Hua Xilan scratched her head, puzzled. Hurry up and kneel down. Hua Tong's soft shout directly awakened Hua Xilan, and she hurriedly knelt down. Sun Hao looked at the flower demon with a slightly shocked expression. This flower demon was truly indescribably beautiful. She was not much different from Huang Romeng. The two personalities were completely different and incomparable. The orchid demon stood in front of Sun Hao and was about to speak. The young master is cultivating as a mortal. You must not break it, otherwise I will kill you. The voice was not loud, but it was extremely overbearing. Hearing this, the orchid demon's face changed slightly, and her eyes swept to Huang Romeng. Suddenly, She looked slightly shocked. Elf bloodline, divine phoenix bloodline, and a profound immortal. The orchid demon nodded slightly, and the corner of her mouth raised, revealing a quiet smile, which made people feel very comfortable. Young master, thank you for saving Xiaolan. The orchid demon said. Are you a flower immortal? Sun Hao asked. Yes. The orchid demon nodded slightly. The world calls me Flower Fairy. As soon as these words came out, Sun Hao looked startled. Flower Fairy? He had heard of this name. It was said that she was one of the 9 immortals of the human race with great strength. She had always taken protecting the human race as her duty. It could be said that she was the most loyal immortal of the human race. Who would have thought that the Flower Fairy was just a flower demon? In that case, why should she protect the human race? Young master, I am indeed one of the 9 immortals of the human race, but it's all a long story. Young master, have a drink with me. I will tell you slowly. After the Flower Fairy finished speaking, she waved her right hand, and 2 chairs and a table were placed in the cave. Young master, please. The Flower Fairy made a gesture of invitation. Sun Hao smiled slightly, took Huang Ruming's small hand, and sat down directly. Miss Xiaolan, it seems that you still have to prepare a chair, Sun Hao said with a smile. Young master, I'm sorry. The Flower Fairy smiled slightly, and all kinds of charm overflowed. She took out a chair again and sat down. I have something to discuss with the young master. You can retreat first, the Flower Fairy said. Yes, old ancestor. Hua Tong quickly retreated with a group of elders. Young master, do you drink nectar? The Flower Fairy asked. Nectar? Sun Hao was slightly startled. He had drunk honey. However, what was this nectar? Young master, in fact, honey is a kind of nectar, but nectar does not need bees to collect. As the Lord of 100 Flowers, I receive a lot of nectar from flower demons every year. The Flower Fairy seemed to see what Sun Hao was thinking and said, Thank you, Miss Xiaolan. Sun Hao smiled and nodded. Chapter 218. The Flower Fairy poured a cup of nectar for Sun Hao and Huang Rumen. After sitting down, she opened her mouth and spoke. Young master, I was originally just an orchid that could be trampled on at will. One day, I met the master. The first words he spoke made me give birth to consciousness, and from then on, I embarked on the road of cultivation. Since then, the master would sit beside me every year and tell me about his unhappiness. He said that he was mentally and physically exhausted for the human race. I was extremely moved when I listened to his story. I secretly made up my mind that when I succeeded in my cultivation, I must protect the human race and share the troubles for the master. Suddenly one day, I didn't see the master again until I transformed, and it was the same. I also know that the master didn't tell me at all. Even a master didn't look at me in the eye. However, in my heart, he is my master, and it will never change. At this point, the Flower Fairy laughed at herself, and 2 lines of tears slipped down from her eyes. Young master, I'll let you see a joke, the Flower Fairy said. How could it be? Miss Xiaolan has a true temperament, worthy of admiration. Sun Hao said, Thank you, young master. The Flower Fairy nodded slightly and continued to speak. She said that she would protect everything for the human race. Everything was earth-shattering. Hearing it in Sun Hao's ears, his face was full of admiration. A demon immortal actually paid so much for the human race, and in the end, she almost ended up dead. His breadth of mind was unparalleled. If there were more such immortals in the human race, the evil and demon races would have nothing to fear. Miss Xiaolan is really righteous. If there were more immortals like Miss Xiaolan, how could the evil and demon races dare to run amok in our human race territory? Sun Hao said. As soon as these words came out, the Flower Fairy's body trembled. Does the young master have other intentions for saying this to me? Could it be that the human race is now in danger? Thinking like this, the Flower Fairy pinched her fingers. Suddenly, her face changed slightly. The ancient demon Ancestor Ingo has been resurrected. It is heading towards the South Prefecture Immortal City. If we let it go there, the entire South Prefecture Immortal City will be plunged into misery and suffering. The young master said this to me, obviously asking me to stop it. However, Ingo is the ancient demon ancestor. Even if his current strength is not even a tenth of his original strength, how can I be his opponent? How did I manage to divine Ingo's revival? The flower fairy mumbled to herself, her face filled with shock. Then, with a thought, she calmed down and scanned her entire body. Her face was full of surprise. I actually broke through. He became an earth immortal. His soul has been strengthened dozens of times. No wonder it's so easy for me to deduce now. Young Master's means are simply incredible. The flower fairy looked at Sun Hao with admiration written all over her face. Since young Master has spoken like this, then he wants me to go and kill Ingo. Killing Ingo would definitely not be a problem. The flower fairy nodded and made her decision. Thank you for your praise, young Master. The flower fairy stood up and bowed to Sun Hao. Young Master, Xiaolan has something to do. I'll leave for a while. You drink the nectar first, and I'll be back soon. All right. Sun Hao smiled and nodded, picked up the cup, and took a sip. It was sweet and refreshing, sweet but not greasy, and a faint floral fragrance filled the mouth cavity. If used to cook, it would add a few more layers to the dish, making it taste more delicious. Especially when made into snacks, it would add a variety of floral fragrance, which must be the best in the world. I'll ask Miss Xiaolan for a little later. I don't know if she will agree. Looking at the flower fairy's back, Sun Hao thought secretly. South Prefecture Immortal City. Wuhan walked on the main street with a trace of worry on his face. Hello, Taoist Wu. At least 50% of the people passing by knew Wuhan, and they would take the initiative to say hello. The reason for this was that this matter had to be told a few months ago. In the past, Wuhan was just an ordinary cultivator. Among the cultivators, he basically couldn't find any highlights. A few months ago, he happened to be in the western regions. When he heard that the Blood Phoenix nest was opened, he rushed in without thinking about it, just to fight for a little luck. Fortunately, he survived and listened to the godly cunning immortal's song. Since then, his life had completely changed. His cultivation speed was simply skyrocketing. In less than a few months, he had reached the 10th stage of Ascendant Realm, only one step away from half immortal. If this was in the past, it was simply unthinkable. All this was thanks to the godly cunning immortal. Because of this, he joined the Evil Suppression Alliance and became a deacon of the South Prefecture Immortal City. He was responsible for all matters of the Evil Suppression Alliance in the South Prefecture Immortal City. Everything was fine, but recently, strange things happened one after another. Even the Zhang family's patriarch died suddenly. In addition, most people now have nightmares every night and can't cultivate. For a while, the entire South Prefecture Immortal City was in a state of panic. He reported to the Southern Region Branch Master, but the other party said to thoroughly investigate the matter and then report it. There was no other way. Wuhan had to do it. However, after exhausting all methods, there was no clue at all. In his heart, a sense of uneasiness grew stronger and stronger, as if something big was about to happen. Deacon Wu, there are still no clues. At this time, an Evil Suppression Alliance disciple ran up and said, No clues? I'm afraid this matter is not simple. I always have a sense of uneasiness. Something big is going to happen in this South Prefecture Immortal City. Wuhan said, There won't be evil spirits, right? It's hard to say. At this point, Wuhan made up his mind and looked at the disciple in front of him. Pass down the order. Order all disciples to move immediately. Tell the people in the city to immediately evacuate the South Prefecture Immortal City. The sooner the better. Wuhan said, What? Deacon, this? Still not going down? Wuhan shouted. Yes. The disciple quickly ran down and began to carry out the order. A moment later, the South Prefecture Immortal City was bustling. What? Leave the South Prefecture Immortal City? Then where are we going? Even if there is danger, the South Prefecture Immortal City has a city protection array. It is the safest place. Why should I withdraw? That can't be said like that. They are the Evil Suppression Alliance, instructed by the godly cunning immortal, who is calculating everything. Godly cunning immortal? How can you believe such hearsay? If you don't believe it, the godly cunning immortal is a supreme God. If you don't withdraw, we will withdraw. Don't just stand there. Hurry up, it may be too late. Such a voice sounded around the city. Some people believed it. Some people didn't believe it. Those who believed it immediately moved, and under the arrangement of the Evil Suppression Alliance disciples, they flew quickly to the north of the outer city. And those who didn't believe it stayed in the city and continued to have fun. Deacon, you're not leaving? At this time, a disciple stood in front of Wuhan and asked, I am a member of the Evil Suppression Alliance. Naturally, I have to fight against the evil demons. How can I be a member of the Evil Suppression Alliance if I am so greedy for life and afraid of death? Wuhan said, Deacon, then we have to stay too. Okay, let's fight side by side. Although some people don't believe us, we can't give up on them because of this. Brothers, are you ready to die? Ready. Their voices were uniform, causing the entire square to buzz and tremble. Many onlookers, watching this scene, secretly shook their heads. The godly cunning immortal, calculating everything? If there really is such a powerful person in this world, humanity would have been safe long ago. That's right, this group of fools has never seen the godly cunning immortal, and they still believe it so much. Chapter 219. Boom! A dull, loud noise came from the south. The entire South Prefecture Immortal City was buzzing and trembling. The dust on the eaves rustled down. What happened? Is it an earthquake? I don't know, let's go out and see. Many people ran out, flew into the air, and swept around with their divine senses. There was nothing unusual in the area covered by their divine senses. Boom! There was another loud noise, shaking the sand and dust on the ground slightly. This sound, like a blast on the chest of everyone, was extremely uncomfortable. Could it be that everything the Evil Suppressing Alliance said is true? Is something big going to happen? Why don't we run now? Run my ass. With the Great City Protection Array, it's very safe. The words just fell. Look, a cry of alarm sounded. Everyone squinted their eyes and looked over, and their pupils shrank. They saw, in the southwest, a black cloud rushed in. I thought it was something. It turned out to be thunder. It looks like it's going to rain. I worried for nothing. This Evil Suppressing Alliance is still making a fuss, even afraid of thunder. A group of immortal cultivators secretly shook their heads, their faces full of sneers. However, boom, 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 the loud noise continued, getting more and more intense. That black cloud, like lightning, came so fast that people couldn't react. With the arrival of the black cloud, the terrifying evil spirit drifted over, instantly enveloping the sky. Everyone looked at the sky, full of disbelief. This is the blood evil spirit of the demon race. What? What should we do? It's over, it's over. Quick, run. Immediately afterward, thousands of long rainbows flew straight up from the ground and soared into the sky. They easily flew over the great array and rushed to the blood evil spirit, seeing that they were about to escape. At this time, buzz, heaven and earth trembled. A sky-covering claw penetrated the evil spirit and pressed down straight down. The evil spirit was like a waterfall pouring down. Thousands of immortal cultivators' scalps exploded, and they were about to turn around, but found that their bodies seemed to be imprisoned and unable to move. My God, what kind of bloody claw is this? How terrifying. It's over, it's over. I regret it. If I had known earlier, I would have listened to the Evil Suppressing Alliance. These thoughts had just appeared in his mind. Bang! The bodies of thousands of immortal cultivators were torn apart. Their blood was like silk, forming threads of blood. They gathered together and went straight into the sky-covering claw. So weak. He only has so little HP. An explosion came from the sky, shaking everyone's ears and causing their mouths and noses to overflow. He raised his head. Everyone's expression changed drastically, and their bodies trembled violently. Boundless fear surged through his body. Above the baleful aura two blood-red eyes pierced through it. Anyone who was swept by it went silent like a cicada in winter and couldn't make a sound. It was as if he was filled with fear, like a sky full of black insects crawling all over his body. Ha ha! The laughter caused a baleful aura to surge and thin out. On top of the two blood-red eyes were two giant horns that were 100 meters long. From time to time, they would emit a red light that seemed capable of ripping apart the heavens and earth. It would cause one's heart to sink into hell, and they wouldn't be able to resist at all. That's the ancient demon ancestor, Ingo. A clap of thunder from the 9 heavens shook everyone's soul. For a while, it was impossible to restore calm. What? Ingo has been resurrected? My ancestor. It's over. The human race is finished. Yeah, what should we do? Who will save us? In the blink of an eye, millions of immortal cultivators were in despair. Ingo looked at this scene with a sneer on his face. Scream, scream, and cry. Ants tremble. The demon ancestor, who made you scared, is back. After saying that, Ingo stretched out his sky-covering claw and pressed down. Boom! A sound rang out, and the great city protection array shook up layers of ripples. Ingo's claw was bounced back. Hey, it's a little interesting. This array can actually stop me. However, it's useless break for me. After saying that, Ingo pulled out the heaven's splitting hook from behind, aimed at the South Prefecture Immortal City, and blasted it down. Buzz. The terrifying power seemed to be able to crack the stars, terrifying and boundless. Without any accident, the heaven-splitting hook directly blasted into the great array. Boom! As soon as it landed, the great array was torn apart. The heaven-splitting hook did not slow down and directly blasted into the South Prefecture Immortal City. It looked like a meteor falling to the ground with monstrous power. Seeing this scene, the faces of the immortal cultivators below changed dramatically. The color of despair was shown on everyone's face. I was wrong. I was really wrong. Godly cunning immortal, please save us. Godly cunning immortal, I'm a stupid pig. I didn't believe you. They knelt on the ground, put their hands together, and began to pray. On the south square of the South Prefecture Immortal City. Deacon, are we going to go? A group of disciples looked at Wuhan and asked, Wait a little longer. Wuhan looked at the heaven-splitting hook and frowned slightly, seeing that the heaven-splitting hook was about to blast the earth and blow up the city. At this time, the heaven-splitting hook suddenly shrank and returned to Ingo's hand. Yeah. Ingo looked up at the sky and laughed. Ants scared shitless, right? However, how could I let all of you die so easily? All of you are my food. After saying that, Ingo stretched out his claw and grabbed down. The shocking pressure shook down from the claw. The bodies of the immortal cultivators below seemed to be imprisoned and unable to move. No, don't. I don't want to die. Godly cunning immortal, please save me. The shouts kept ringing out. Wuhan saw this scene and nodded secretly. Begin. With a light shout, thousands of disciples soared into the sky. They frantically mobilized their physical strength and gathered it in one place, forming a palm of light and shadow. Aiming at Ingo's claw, it blasted over. Boom! There was a loud noise. The palm of light and shadow cracked in response. Wuhan and the others flew out upside down and hit the ground heavily. Boom! Dust exploded, vomiting blood endlessly. One blow, serious injury. Ingo's claw was blocked for a moment. He couldn't help but stop. Two blood-red eyes swept across the South Prefecture Immortal City and finally stared at Wuhan and the others. Interesting, you actually have the guts to fight with me. Then I will give you a dignified way to die. After saying that, Ingo pointed to the sky with his right hand. Buzz, heaven and earth trembled. A huge sea of blood enveloped heaven and earth. The sea of blood was boundless, and the evil spirit was boundless. The shocking pressure poured down from the sea of blood, enveloping the entire South Prefecture Immortal City. This power was more than 10,000 times stronger than the sea of blood made by the Earth Fiend before. Just like fireflies and sunlight, there was no comparison at all. At this moment, boom! Everyone in the South Prefecture Immortal City trembled uncontrollably, and they crawled on the ground, shivering. Fear filled their hearts, and despair was written all over their faces. Blood Fairy, devour them. Give them the highest standard of death. This sound rose. Buzz. The sea of blood shook, and a skeletal claw grabbed out of the sea of blood. It's over. It's completely over. Is this God's punishment for us? There is no medicine for regret. Desperate shouts kept ringing out. Wuhan looked at this scene, the corners of his mouth raised slightly. Godly cunning immortal, I didn't lose face for you. After saying that, Wuhan closed his eyes and quietly waited for death. Chapter 220. Ants tremble, ants despair, ants crawl. Your great devil ancestor is back. Ingo said one sentence at a time, and his voice was full of pride. Don't you have the godly cunning immortal to protect you? Where is he? Are you scared to piss your pants and tremble when you see me? In the sea of blood, the skeleton claw pressed straight down. The terrifying pressure made everyone tremble and unable to resist at all. At this time, a gust of wind passed. A faint fragrance filled everyone's nasal cavity. The fragrance entered the nose. Kacha! A sound rang out. The shackles on everyone were broken, and they regained their freedom. They looked up at the sky and saw the scene in front of them, their faces full of astonishment. Wow! Orchids fell from the sky. It looked like snowflakes flying all over the sky, so beautiful that it was suffocating to see. It sprinkled, covering the entire city. Look! An exclamation sounded. Looking along the voice, everyone's pupils couldn't help but shrink. So beautiful! Too beautiful, just like an immortal. I've seen her painting. Isn't she a flower fairy? What? The flower fairy came to save us. Only to see, in the sky, a woman in a blue dress stood in midair. She was the flower fairy. Every step she took, orchids would be born under her feet, which was extremely beautiful. The corner of the flower fairy's mouth raised, looking at the sky-covering skeleton palm, not in a hurry, stretched out her finger and pressed it upward. In front of her finger, orchids rushed out. In the blink of an eye, it was overwhelming, covering the entire sky. The sky full of orchids, like butterflies, wrapped the skeleton palm in the blink of an eye. No, a roar of unwillingness sounded from the sea of blood. After the orchids dispersed, the skeleton palm disappeared. Damn flower demon. How can the affairs of the human race have anything to do with you? Do you like to meddle in this kind of business? In the sea of blood, there were bursts of roars. The flower fairy smiled slightly, full of charm. This seat is under the decree of the godly cunning immortal. Kill. You all have harmed the common people. The godly cunning immortal has long been displeased with you all, so he sent me to destroy you all. The flower fairy said lightly. Kill us? How arrogant. Just you alone. The sea of blood shook violently as skeletal hands rose from the sea of blood. He aimed it at the flower fairy. Not bad. The flower fairy smiled and pressed her right hand forward. Instantly. Phew! The orchids that filled the sky surged forward. These orchids rapidly piled up, forming a palm of orchids that blotted out the sky. It smashed towards the sea of blood. Bang! The sky-covering skeleton palm seemed to be unable to withstand this kind of pressure and began to crack bit by bit. No! A roar rang out. You, how can you be so strong? You're just a flower demon. How can you restrain us? What happened to you? No, don't. The unwilling shouts came to an abrupt end. The orchid palm blasted forward. Instantly. Bang! The boundless sea of blood exploded bit by bit. Eventually, it was blasted into smithereens. All the blood energy had evaporated. The sky instantly returned to being clear. The immortal cultivators below stared blankly at this scene, full of disbelief. Ingo also had the same expression as them. How could this be? Ingo kept shaking his head, his face full of disbelief. His strongest magic treasure, although its power was not even 1 in 10,000, was not something that an immortal could deal with. Not to mention, it was just an earth immortal. Originally, he wanted to show off, but this time, It was too much, and the magic treasure directly disappeared. After recovering, Ingo didn't look for the flower fairy to fight. Instead, he turned around, took a step, and ran away quickly. Since you're here, don't leave. You and the others are tyrannical in the human race's territory. You should not exist in this world. The flower fairy waved her right hand, and the orchids in the sky scattered everywhere. These orchids fell on Ingo's body and immediately burned into wisps of black smoke. Damn little flower demon, I'm not afraid of you. Die. Ingo took out the heaven-splitting hook on his body and aimed at the flower fairy. Buzz, the air was directly broken, bursting out with bursts of roars. The terrifying power seemed to be able to tear everything apart. The flower fairy smiled faintly and blew a breath of air in front of her. Oh, a huge orchid formed in front of her. In the blink of an eye, this orchid blasted on the heaven-splitting hook. Kacha! The sound of metal cracking rang out. Above the heaven-splitting hook, cracks spread all around. Ingo's face changed slightly, full of disbelief. The next second, boom! There was an explosion. The heaven-splitting hook directly burst apart and exploded into pieces. This is impossible. How can an earth immortal like you be so strong? Ingo's eyes widened, and he kept shaking his head. Shock was written all over his face. The rain of orchids continued to fall. Each flower would burn a strand of blood from Ingo's body. In less than a moment, Ingo's body was scorched black. Damn, Doc. Ingo let out an angry roar, drew 90% of the blood in his body, formed a giant blood-colored fist that covered the sky, and blasted it at the flower fairy. Seeing this scene, the flower fairy's face changed slightly. At this moment, she looked cautious. Come on, the flower fairy shouted softly, mobilizing the strength of her whole body and releasing it in the palm of her hand. Oh, endless orchids surged all over the world. At this moment, the surrounding scenery seemed to disappear. There were only orchids in the whole world. An incomparably strong fragrance filled the entire space. These orchids surged rapidly, also forming a petal fist that covered the sky and blasted at Ingo. Boom! A sound rang out. This sound was obviously not loud, but it shocked the cultivators below to bleed from their mouths and noses. The weak ones fainted directly. The dazzling light enveloped the world, making people unable to open their eyes. Damn it. This seat will die in the hands of a demon immortal. No, never. Ingo let out an unwilling roar, took a step, and ran away quickly. If you come, then stay. Following this sound, the giant fist that covered the sky blasted at Ingo. No. An unwilling roar came to an abrupt end. Ingo's body burst apart. Flesh and blood splattered everywhere. Boom! The huge skeleton hit the ground heavily, splashing up 100 feet of dust. When the orchids fell and touched the skeleton directly burst into powder. Even the 100-meter giant horn was the same. So fragile. It shouldn't be. The flower fairy looked at the giant horn that had burst into powder and frowned slightly. No. Is he trying to escape? The corner of the flower fairy's mouth raised, and she waved her right hand. The sky was full of orchids, covering the entire world. Suddenly, the flower fairy raised her eyebrows. So you want to rely on him to take you away? Die. After speaking, the flower fairy pointed her right hand, and the sky full of orchids aimed at the sky and blasted over. Boom! The world shook, and a figure was blasted out. He crashed into the ground, and the dust flew. This person was none other than Hansha. Spare me, immortal. Hansha knelt on the ground and kept kowtowing. The flower fairy smiled slightly, and her killing intent surged. You all are tyrannical in the human race's territory and should not exist in this world. Die. With a light shout, she sentenced Hansha to death. Endless orchids floated over quickly. No. The shouting came to an abrupt end. After the orchids flew past, there was only a skeleton left. Boom! After the wind blew, the skeleton exploded into powder and disappeared. This book by Book Friendbase Read the book to get a cash red packet. Chapter 221. Dead? He died just like that. The ancestor of the demon race is so vulnerable. The flower fairy is so powerful, so terrifying. The human race will be safe with this immortal. I'm still alive, great. I'm still alive, thanks to the flower fairy. In the South Prefecture Immortal City, a group of immortal cultivators stood in place, touching their faces, feeling extremely unreal. In the sky, the flower fairy stood in place, her face showing a trace of shock. I'm so strong. The young master watered and fertilized me, and actually let me grow to this point. Although I'm just an earth immortal, now even an ordinary immortal is probably not my opponent. Also, my body contains a kind of power that restrains evil spirits. These are all good things that the young master has given me. Young master, what is your identity? The flower fairy murmured to herself, her body trembling slightly with excitement. Turning her head, she looked in the direction of Huasian Valley, her face full of gratitude. Young master, I understand what you mean. Since you have given me this ability, then I will play a role. From today onwards, I will take it as my duty to kill the evil spirits. The flower fairy withdrew her emotions and swept toward the South Prefecture Immortal City. She saw millions of immortal cultivators all kneeling on the ground. They kept saluting at her. Thank you, flower fairy, for saving my life. On everyone's face, there was a look of incomparable gratitude. Seeing this scene, the flower fairy pointed forward with her right hand. Buzz, a loud explosion rang out, causing everyone to be stunned where they stood. The whole scene instantly quieted down. All of you listen carefully. Everything today has nothing to do with me. I just came to save you on the decree of the godly, cunning immortal. As soon as these words came out, it was like a stone stirring up 1,000 ripples. The faces of the vast majority of immortal cultivators showed expressions of regret. I regret. I didn't expect that the godly cunning immortal really exists. The flower fairy is so respectful to the godly cunning immortal. Doesn't it mean that the 9 immortals of the human race listen to the godly cunning immortal? We don't believe in the godly cunning immortal, and the godly cunning immortal hasn't given up on us. This breadth of mind, able to accept all things, no one can match. The godly cunning immortal really takes saving people's lives as his duty. I really deserve to die, to be so disrespectful to the godly cunning immortal. In the South Square, Wuhan and the other disciples of the Evil Suppressing Alliance looked at the sky with excitement. Deacon Wu, the godly cunning immortal, has sent someone to save us. The godly cunning immortal calculated everything and did not give up on us. Hearing this, Wuhan nodded. That's right. After everyone quieted down, the flower fairy continued to speak. The human race is weak and in a state of disunity. That's why the evil demons can take advantage of us. The human race must be united as one. Only by uniting as one can we possibly resist the demons. The flower fairy's voice boomed in everyone's mind like thunder. At this moment, the blood of the millions of cultivators was stirred up and began to burn. Obey the decree of the godly, cunning immortal. Obey the decree of the godly, cunning immortal. They knelt on the ground and kept repeating the same words. That excited look was indescribable. Seeing this, the flower fairy nodded in satisfaction. Then, she extended her slender finger and pointed forward. Buzz, the air vibrated and rippled. Countless orchids shook around the ripples. She took a step and walked forward. Every step, she stepped out of orchids so beautiful that it was suffocating. She penetrated the ripples and disappeared on the spot. North of the South Prefecture Immortal City, thousands of kilometers away. Here, it was an endless desert. Buzz, suddenly, there were layers of ripples over the desert. A figure drilled out of the ripples and fell heavily to the ground. He was dressed in a blood-red robe, and his whole body was covered with burn scars. He looked very miserable. This figure was the Sky Demon. Puff! A mouthful of blood sprayed out from the Sky Demon's mouth. It took a long time for the Sky Demon to feel a little better. Damn it! Wasn't the flower fairy killed by the Lord? How come she's alive again? Moreover, it's still so terrifying. Compared with the Lord, I'm afraid this strength is not the slightest bit weaker. Fortunately, I brought out the Ancestor's blood essence. The sky demon muttered to himself, took out a jade bottle, opened it, and there was a drop of red blood inside. Terrifying power condensed on this drop of blood. Ancestor, are you okay? The sky demon asked. Little guy, thank you very much. When this seat recovers, I will definitely give you amazing fortune. Let me out. In the jade bottle, Ingo's voice came. Ancestor, you're injured too badly now. You need to go back to the blood sea to recuperate. You'd better stay in the bottle, so it's safe. After speaking, the sky demon closed the jade bottle, revealing a sneer on his mouth. Little guy, let me out. If you dare not let me out, when this seat recovers, I will definitely make your soul fly away. Damn it, damn it. Inside the jade bottle, there was a burst of roars. The sky demon shook his head slightly, waved his right hand, and threw the jade bottle into the soul space. Then he took out a medicinal pill with surging blood chi. With an incomparably painful expression, he picked up the medicinal pill and swallowed it in one gulp. The blood-red aura wrapped around the sky demon surged quickly. The scorched black injuries on the sky demon's body healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. Lord, when I devour the Ancestor's blood essence, I will not be weaker than you. At that time, you will submit to my feet. First find a place to hide. Wait until I finish devouring the Ancestor's blood essence before coming out. The sky demon muttered to himself and was preparing to move. Suddenly, his scalp was numb. Looking up, his pupils shrank. Unknowingly, a figure appeared in front of him. He had a head of long blood-red hair, and his two eyes were crimson. His body was covered with a terrifying, murderous aura, making people tremble involuntarily when they saw it. Facing him was like facing the Lord. Could it be the Lord? No. The sky demon muttered to himself with a face of fear. The red-haired man came forward and grinned. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Lai Shang. You can also call me Ancestor Ho Qing. What? Ancestor Ho Qing? The sky demon's scalp trembled, and he took 2 steps back. How is this possible? Aren't you already dead? Does this seat still need to explain to you? Surrender, or perish. Lai Shang looked at the sky demon and said faintly, Who cares what ancestor you are? Die for me. The sky demon roared, madly mobilizing the strength of his body. The terrifying blood chi surged up, condensing into a blood-colored claw, pressing down from the sky. The earth-shattering might shook the air and made the air explode continuously. Lai Shang looked at this scene, the corner of his mouth slightly raised. A little interesting, actually already has the demonic power. It seems that this seat is a little reluctant to kill you. Swallow. Lai Shang opened his mouth and sucked hard. The blood-colored claw turned into infinite blood chi and went straight into Lai Shang's mouth. In the blink of an eye, it was swallowed clean by Lai Shang. The taste is good. Let this seat recover a little strength. Lai Shang licked his lips and walked towards the sky demon step by step. Chapter 222. Tian Sha pointed at Lai Shang, his voice trembling. He secretly took out a talisman and was about to ignite it. At this moment, a huge force restrained his entire body, making him unable to move. Lai Shang walked up to him and looked down at him. I will ask you one last time, surrender or perish. Lai Shang asked. This, Tian Sha's voice trembled as his expression changed. Finally, he nodded slightly. I submit. All right, let go of your soul. I want to implant the soul-extinguishing curse. Lai Shang said, Ancestor, and there's no need. I will be loyal to you. Tian Sha said, You only obtained a drop of Ingo's blood essence, and you are already thinking of betraying us. Why would I listen to you? Either live or die. You choose one of the two. Lai Shang said, Yes, Patriarch. Tian Sha's face was filled with despair as he closed his eyes unwillingly. Lai Shang waved his right hand, and a wisp of black and red evil spirit went into his mind from Tian Sha's eyebrows. An incomparably shrill scream rang out. Tiansha half knelt on the ground and screamed. Half an hour later, the scream stopped, and Tiansha stood respectfully in front of Lai Shang. Old Ancestor, not bad. You have some strength. Don't worry, as long as you are loyal to me, the soul-extinguishing curse will not be activated. Naturally, I won't mistreat you. Show me Ingo's blood essence. Lai Shang said. Yes, Patriarch. With that, Tiansha took out a jade bottle and handed it to Lai Shang. Ho Qing actually came back to life? Hurry up and let me out. Let us brothers roam the world together. Ingo's voice came from the jade bottle. Brother? We are all the 4 great generals of the ancient Diablo. When did we become brothers? This wisp of consciousness of yours should not exist. After that, Lai Shang stretched out his finger and pressed down. Streaks of red light entered the jade bottle. No, an unwilling shout came to an abrupt end. That drop of blood essence's consciousness was completely annihilated, not leaving behind any pure soul power. Tell me about the recent tens of thousands of years of devil race. Lai Shang said. Yes, Patriarch. Tiansha cupped his fists and spoke. Lai Shang listened carefully, frowning slightly from time to time. Not long after, Lai Shang's eyes flashed with a strange light. As expected, you guys are going to do that big thing. However, I can help you. After that, Lai Shang took out a jade bottle and plucked a drop of blood from it. A wisp of Ho Qing's soul was attached to the essence blood. However, this strand of soul did not have any consciousness. Seeing this scene, Tiansha's expression changed slightly. Patriarch, what are you doing? You should call this seat Lord. Your ancestor has already been swallowed by me. Lai Shang said. What? Tiansha's pupils contracted as his face was filled with disbelief. Then it doesn't matter who I am. What matters is that you will follow me in the future and rule this world together. There's a cultivation technique here. Practice it well. After saying that, Lai Shang pointed his right hand. An ray of light went straight into Tiansha's glabella. Terrifying information flooded Tiansha's mind like a tsunami. Tiansha stood rooted to the ground. He was so shocked that he could not come back to his senses for a long time. This is the legendary Blood Zombie Heart Sutra. Legend has it that in ancient times, the evil king had 4 great generals, all of whom cultivated the Blood Zombie Heart Sutra. This cultivation technique was extremely powerful. When cultivated to great success, one could transform into the Blood Zombie Ancestor, directly jumping out of the 3 realms and not in the 5 elements. Even the heavenly Tao could not control it. The most terrifying thing was that the Blood Zombie Ancestor could simply shatter a star with 1 finger. Even if he had been dead for millions of years, his physical body had not completely decayed. It could be seen how terrifying this cultivation technique was. Unexpectedly, this lord in front of him actually gave it to him without the slightest hesitation. It was really a great fortune. Thank you, Lord. Tiansha knelt on the ground and shed tears of gratitude. Lai Shang looked at this scene, and the corners of his mouth rose. First give a slap, then give a candy. This was the way to control people. No need, follow this seat. I will naturally not treat you badly. Now, there is one thing I need you to do. Lai Shang said. Lord, please tell me, as long as you need me, I will not hesitate to go through water and tread on fire. Tiansha said. First, give these 2 bottles to the current demon lord and continue to lurk by his side. Everything about your demon lord needs to be reported to this seat. Do not hide anything. Remember, do not expose this seat. After Lai Shang finished speaking, he threw a communication jade slip to Tiansha. Yes, Lord. Tiansha picked up the jade slip and put it into the soul space. Then he began to kowtow. Okay, you go back first. Lai Shang said. Yes, Lord. After saying that, Tiansha took out a talisman, gently pinched it with his right hand, and the talisman instantly ignited. Tiansha quickly disappeared without a trace. After Tiansha left, Lai Shang stood in place, the corners of his mouth raised into a faint smile. Master, are you doing well? Logically speaking, you should have broken through by now. Now, I will give you a little sweetness first, and let you be proud for a while. I want you to know what is called extreme joy turns to sorrow, what is called despair. This is what you gave to your disciple. Now, it is time for you to enjoy it. Lai Shang looked in the direction of the northern region, took a step forward. Every step seemed slow, but in fact it was extremely fast. Just one step, and he stepped 100 miles away. Young master, you have been waiting for a long time. Sun Hao and Huang Rumeng were drinking nectar. At this time, a voice came from outside. Immediately afterward, a blue-clothed flower fairy leisurely walked over. A faint orchid fragrance came to the nose, making people feel refreshed when they smelled it. Miss Xiaolan, it's only been a while, Sun Hao said with a smile. Seeing the smile on Sun Hao's face, the flower fairy nodded slightly. It seemed that she had completed the task given by the young master, and he was very satisfied. Young master, do you like this nectar? The flower fairy asked. It's fragrant and delicious, sweet, but not greasy. I like it very much. Sun Hao said. Young master, since you like it, then please accept it. After speaking, the flower fairy waved her right hand. A jar of nectar was placed in front of Sun Hao. Seeing this scene, Sun Hao was suddenly dumbfounded. Such a big jar, if 2 people ate it, they would not be able to finish it in 10 years. However, there were many guests in his house. He could use this to make some snacks. It must be very good. Sun Hao nodded secretly with a smile on his face. Thank you, Miss Xiaolan. Sun Hao gave a look, and Huang Rumeng nodded in understanding and immediately put away the nectar. Young master, you are too polite. It's just a little something. The flower fairy said. Miss Xiaolan, it's not early today. We will leave first, and we will talk again another day. Sun Hao said. Young master, I will see you off. Okay. The flower fairy stood up and walked out of the cave with Sun Hao and Huang Rumeng. Chapter 2:23. Young Master, Ancestor. Seeing Sun Hao leave, Hua Tong quickly ran over with Hua Xilan. Didn't I tell you not to disturb me? The flower fairy's face revealed a trace of displeasure. Ancestor, I saw that the young master was about to leave, so I ran over. Young master, you still have flowers to choose. Hua Tong said. As soon as these words came out, Sun Hao showed a sudden expression. He had actually forgotten about the important matter. Valley Master, you are right. I still have to choose a few flowers to take back. Sun Hao said. There's no need to choose. The flower fairy stood up and said. As soon as these words came out, the surrounding crowd was filled with shock. Ancestor, what happened to you? This is the godly cunning immortal. He just saved your life. How can you not even give up a few flowers? Even if this 100 Flowers Valley is our blood and sweat, it shouldn't be a problem for young master to choose a few. Young master, since you like flowers and plants, this 100 Flowers Valley is for you. Flower fairy said. This, Sun Hao was stunned in place. Give me the entire Huaxian Valley? There's no need. How can I manage so many flowers? The flower fairy seemed to see through Sun Hao's thoughts and smiled slightly. Young master, I will move the entire 100 Flowers Valley near you. If you want any flowers, just tell me, and I will send them to you immediately. From now on, the 100 Flowers Valley belongs to you, young master, and you will no longer sell flowers to anyone. As for this place, I will send people to continue to take care of it and plant flowers for sale. Young master, I wonder if you... The flower fairy looked at Sun Hao and asked, move the entire 100 Flowers Valley over? Wouldn't that mean there were close to 10,000 cultivators? If a few hundred guests came every day and each person only obtained 1 blessing point, that would be a few hundred points. However, he did not seem to have that many things to give. Let them listen to chanting scriptures? It was useless. Since Ning Mingji left, his chanting couldn't get the blessing point at all. Plant flowers for them to cultivate? It seemed like he could obtain blessing points. However, if he could have this kind of power when he played the zither, his other skills might have terrifying damage. If that was the case, would there still be a need for blessing points? Who cares? Let them move to the foot of the mountain first. At the very least, it would no longer be deserted in the future. Sun Hao thought secretly and made a decision. How can this be? Sun Hao said, Young master, you saved my life. This kind of kindness is nothing compared to a small Huaxian valley. Young master, I will deliver it to you today. With that, the flower fairy stretched out her palm and pressed forward. The entire 100-flower valley, including the people inside, quickly shrunk to the size of a palm and landed in the flower fairy's hand. The mountain and river in the palm made Sun Hao extremely envious. "Young master, let's go," the flower fairy said. "Okay, take my flying boat," Sun Hao said. "Thank you, young master." The flower fairy nodded. The moment Huang Rumeng summoned the scarlet thunder, the flower fairy was stunned. This is a fairy boat carved from fairy wood. I can't even see the grade of this immortal wood, but I've never seen it before on the violet sunstar. It looks like the young master came from some super life planet. The flower fairy muttered to herself, looking at Sun Hao's back, her eyes shining with worship. She followed Sun Hao and walked into the immortal boat. These formation patterns are carved so perfectly. It's simply flawless. I can't find any fault with it. There's actually such a powerful formation master in this world. Compared to the ancient formation runes, this is many times stronger. Could it be that these were all carved by the young master? Thinking like this, the flower fairy asked, "Young master, did you buy this immortal boat?" "I didn't buy it. I made it with someone else. It's a little small. Miss Xiaolan, please forgive me," Sun Hao said. "Young master, then what are these formations?" the flower fairy asked. "It's all carved by me. It's a little rough," Sun Hao said. As soon as these words came out, boom! It was like a thunderclap on the top of the flower fairy's head. Her little mouth opened and didn't close for a long time. The young master is actually this kind of immortal formation master. This kind of technique, not to mention in the violet sunstar, even on the Pegasus star, I will never find a second one. The young master is really terrifying. What is your identity? The flower fairy frowned and began to search in her mind. After a while, she shook her head slightly. In her memory, she couldn't find a strong person who could coincide with Sun Hao. "Rumeng, let's fly back directly today. Don't open the space jump," Sun Hao said. "Yes, young master." "Miss Xiaolan, Rumeng, why don't we play a few rounds of Fight the Landlord?" After Sun Hao finished speaking, he walked to the chess room. Fight the Landlord? Obviously, neither of the two women had heard of it. "Don't be stunned. It's very simple. I'll teach you," Sun Hao said. "Yes, young master." The two came to the chess room. Sun Hao took out a pair of poker cards and waved them in front of the two women. This thing was made by himself. There was no difference between each card just looking at the back. Sun Hao spread out the cards in turn and presented them in front of the two women. "This is called ace, this is 2, this is 3. There are a total of 4 colors. This is plum blossom. This is spade. The rules of playing card are like this. It can be single, it can be double, it can be 3 with 1, or 3 with a pair, 4 with 2, or 4 with a pair. And this pair of kings is Sky Explosion. When they are together, it is the biggest." Sun Hao seriously introduced the rules of Fight the Landlord. After the two women heard it, their eyes flickered. They secretly recorded these rules. "I know, you can all use divine sense, but it's forbidden to use divine sense to look at other people's cards. Otherwise, it's against the rules." Sun Hao threw the cards and began to shuffle them. "Can I use divine sense to scan?" In the flower fairy's eyes, a flash of light flashed away. Then, she released her divine sense and began to scan. "Can't see through. This card is made of immortal wood. Not to mention me. Even the immortal emperor can't sweep through. Young master, the things you use are really incredible." The flower fairy murmured, worship written all over her face. "Miss Xiaolan, Rumeng, are you ready?" Sun Hao said with a smile. "Yes." The two women nodded. "Okay, grab the cards." Under Sun Hao's leadership, the three began to grab the cards. The first round must be won no matter what, otherwise there would be no face at all. After grabbing the cards, Sun Hao looked at the cards in his hand and was so angry that he wanted to vomit blood. The biggest one only had 3 QS, and there was no bomb. Flipping over the cards, 2 3s, 1 4s, plus his own pair of 5s, he couldn't even connect them. This was simply the worst hand he had ever touched. "I'll go first, pair of 3s. It's my turn, pair of 4s. I happen to have a pair of 5s. Seeing the two women quickly enter the state, Sun Hao looked surprised. This was the first time they played, and they were already so powerful. Not bad. Pair of eights. Pair of K. Pair of twos. How did you press me? We're in the same group. Who's in the same group with you? I'm in the same group with the young master. The young master is the landlord, and we are farmers. Farmers should work together to fight the landlord. Then I'm a trader, and I'm in partnership with the young master to fight the farmers. You must have been deceived. My name is Ujizi, the weakest immortal of the human race. When did I not go around when I saw the demon race? Give me 10,000 guts, and I will not dare to ruin your good deeds. Demon Lord, the godly cunning immortal has calculated everything. You can't not know, right? If I am the godly cunning immortal, I can calculate everything. Would it be necessary for you to beat me like this? Ujizi said each sentence and kept kowtowing. Shui looked at Ujizi and nodded secretly. Indeed, if the godly cunning immortal really calculated everything, he would definitely calculate that he would find trouble with him. If he was not the godly cunning immortal, then how to explain the message sent by the great pharaoh before his death? Buzz, at this moment, a jade slip began to vibrate. Shui took out the jade slip and looked at it, and his expression changed drastically. It read, Master, Ingo was killed by the Flower Fairy. The Flower Fairy is the subordinate of the godly cunning immortal. This mission failed. It was Hun Sha who sent this message. Shui immediately replied to Hun Sha. However, there was no reply. This means that Hun Sha is dead. Damn it, it's the godly cunning immortal again. Whether you are the godly cunning immortal or not, you must die. After speaking, Shui stretched out his claw and pressed it toward Ujizi. Buzz! Ujizi's body was torn apart and disappeared on the spot. Shui looked at the transmission vortex in front of him, gritting his teeth in anger, his face full of anger. Divine escape talisman. Damn it, I was fooled. Shui's face was full of anger. Buzz! Suddenly, another jade slip vibrated. Opening it, Shui's eyes shone. Go back, Shui said. Yes, master. Chapter 225. Eastern Domain, in a cave. Phew. A figure slowly condensed. He was Ujizi. Ujizi's face was purple and swollen like a pig's head. It looked extremely miserable. Puff! A mouthful of blood was spat out, and a few teeth fell to the ground like hail. Ujizi covered his chest, revealing a fierce look. Godly cunning immortal. You and I have no grievances. Why do you want to harm me? This old man has been so miserable because of you. This old man's divine escape talisman was actually used like this. Damn it. You don't know how much time this old man spent and how much it cost? I just got it. Ujizi muttered to himself, his face full of bitterness. He took out a jade bottle, opened it, and took a deep breath. Then, he closed his eyes and began to recover from his injuries. A moment later, Ujizi opened his eyes and shook his head for a while. The injury is too serious. Just taking a breath is not enough to recover. Do I have to use a 9 revolutions soul pill? I used one for that trash last time. Now, there are only 5 left. I have to use it sparingly. Ujizi put away the jade bottle, continued to sit cross-legged on the ground, and began to recover. Suddenly, his scalp exploded. When he opened his eyes, he couldn't help but rub them. He saw that in front of him stood a man with long, blood-red hair. This person was none other than Lai Shang. Disciple? On Ujizi's face, a touch of uneasiness flashed away. On Lai Shang's body, the aura was like the sea, and it was impossible to see through. It seemed that Lai Shang must have obtained a shocking fortune in the absolute beginning mine. The current him was far from his opponent. Damn it! If I had known earlier, I should have killed him myself. AI, it's all my fault for being soft-hearted. Oh no, it's all my fault for being too greedy and going to grab the 5-spirit immortal gold. Master, do you still remember me? Lai Shang smiled and walked toward Ujizi step by step. You are my disciple. Of course this old man remembers. It's great that you're fine. Don't blame me. The absolute beginning mind is extremely dangerous. I had no choice but to cover you to prevent you from getting hurt. Ujizi said. In that case, this disciple still has to thank you? Lai Shang grinned. Cough. Ujizi smiled awkwardly. His expression was uglier than crying. There's no need for that. I'm relieved that you're fine. Master, how can this be? How can Lai Shang forget your great kindness? How could he dare to forget? I must thank you properly. Lai Shang came forward with a smile. No need. There's really no need. Ujizi kept moving backward. Fear was written all over his face. Master, your great kindness. Lai Shang will repay you now. After saying that, Lai Shang jumped up and appeared in front of Ujizi. He aimed at Ujizi's face and threw a punch. Bang! Ujizi's face, which was swollen like a pig's head, exploded. Blood splattered everywhere. It was a horrible sight to behold. Master, I'm sorry I was wrong. I'll be gentle. This punch is to repay you for raising me for so many years. This punch is to repay you for having designs on my crow ancestor's feather. This punch is to thank you for not killing me. With every sentence he spoke, he would throw a punch. It was truly a case of punches hitting flesh and feet breaking bones. A moment later, Ujizi fell to the ground, lying on the ground like a dead pig, motionless. He's dead so soon? It shouldn't be. Master, don't pretend. Don't I know you well? Pretending to be dead is first class. I haven't hit hard yet. Lai Shang looked at Ujizi and shook his head for a while. Since you want to die so much, I'll fulfill your wish. After saying that, Lai Shang raised his fist, aimed at Ujizi, and threw a punch. Boom! There was a loud noise, and the entire cave was buzzing and trembling. Ujizi's body directly burst into light and shadow and disappeared. Seeing this scene, Lai Shang was slightly stunned. Then, the corner of his mouth rose. Interesting, there's even a substitute immortal talisman. So many treasures. It's only interesting to play like this. Don't die too early, otherwise this game won't be fun. The corner of Lai Shang's mouth raised a cruel smile. His figure flashed and appeared in the sky in an instant. He looked in the southeast direction with a cautious face. Huang Rumeng, I can't deal with you now, but it's no problem to deal with your family. Don't worry, I will give you a surprise. When you return to Demon Ancestor Mountain, you will be surprised to find that they are all dead. Speaking of which, Lai Shang looked up to the sky and laughed. Ha ha. Huang Rumeng, this is the price you pay for killing my father. I'll let you taste what it's like to be grieved. What is the pain of having no relatives? If I'm not wrong, the one you're following must be the godly cunning immortal, right? Don't be complacent. He can't protect you all your life. When I get the secret treasure left by Ho Qing, I must turn you all into zombies. The godly cunning immortal is no exception. Lai Shang's face was full of resentment. It took him a long time to withdraw his anger. He looked in the direction of the great demon mountain and wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes. Father, don't worry. I will help you finish what you haven't finished. This time, I will go to Demon Ancestor Mountain to find my mother. Lai Shang muttered to himself, tears falling unconsciously. Subsequently, he took a step, 100 miles in one step, and ran toward Demon Ancestor Mountain. Soon, he disappeared. Tianluo continent, somewhere in the eastern domain. A figure walked out of the transparent ripples and sat down on the ground. This figure was Ujizi. His face was like a pig's head, his whole body was swollen, and his bones were broken. Severe pain surged throughout his body, and the pain made him gasp. Damn it, this old man has raised you for so many years, and you're actually so cruel. One ingrate. If it weren't for this old man's many treasures, I'm afraid I would have been killed by you this time. Ujizi endured the severe pain, moved his mind, and took out a jade bottle. With an incomparably painful expression, he poured out a medicinal pill and put it into his mouth. The medicinal pill melted in his mouth, turning into a pure restorative power that surged throughout his body. The injuries on Ujizi's body recovered at a speed visible to the naked eye. A moment later, Ujizi recovered as before. The corners of his mouth twitched slightly, and his heart ached to the extreme. There are only 4 revolutions soul-returning pills left. Damn it. This old man should have been ruthless. Sigh, it's all this old man's fault for causing such a disaster. With his current means, I'm afraid it won't be long before he finds me again. At that time, how should I escape? Jeezy frowned and began to think. I don't have many treasures on me now. I must get some more materials. Demon Ancestor Mountain is a good place. I got this 9-tailed celestial fox's tail hair there. Maybe this time my luck is still so good. Just as well, that ingrate can't find me. Thinking like this, Jeezy secretly nodded. Then, he took a step forward, turned into an escape light, and disappeared in the southeast direction. Chapter 226. King Bomb. Huang Rumring threw out 2 kings and pressed the Flower Fairy's 4 twos. Sister Rumung, we are in the same group? In the same group? Why did you bomb me again? The Flower Fairy looked crazy. I said, I am in the same group with the young master. Young master, you still have a 4, right? I'll give a 3. After speaking, Huang Rumung threw out a 3. Sun Hao smiled slightly and threw out the 4 directly. He won again. He didn't lose today, because Rumung, this girl, had been helping him. When the Flower Fairy got the landlord, Rumung seemed extremely powerful, and she cooperated with him seamlessly. Even if the Flower Fairy was smart, she couldn't figure out what card she had. She played timidly and ended up losing. Again, I don't believe I can't win a game today. After speaking, the Flower Fairy began to shuffle the cards. At this time, Master, the destination has been reached. A voice sounded. Sun Hao smiled slightly and stood up. Miss Yaolan, we are home. Let's stop here today. Oh, okay then. The Flower Fairy's face still showed an expression of wanting to continue. Unexpectedly, in this world, there was such a fun game. Compared with Immortal Cultivation, this was simply too fun. I don't know if the young master still has poker cards. Otherwise, I can find someone to play with. The Flower Fairy looked at Sun Hao, opened her mouth, and hesitated to speak. Miss Yaolan, do you want a deck of poker cards? Sun Hao said. Yes. The Flower Fairy nodded. I have a lot here. You take a few. Sun Hao took out 10 decks of poker cards and handed them to the Flower Fairy. The Flower Fairy took the poker cards, and her body trembled slightly with excitement, as if she had obtained a treasure. Thank you, young master. You're welcome. Let's go down, Sun Hao said. Yes, young master. The 3 walked out of the immortal boat and stood in midair. The Flower Fairy looked at the mountain peak. Young master, do you live there? Sun Hao nodded. Young master, I will give you this 100 Flowers Valley in the south. What do you think? The Flower Fairy asked. Thank you, Miss Xiaolan. Young master, you're welcome. This is what I should do. After the Flower Fairy finished speaking, she used the mountain river in her palm. Phew, the 100 Flowers Valley expanded at a speed visible to the naked eye and slowly descended. Under the control of the Flower Fairy, the 100 Flower Valley landed on the southern side of the mountain and forcefully parted the ground around it. The 100 Flowers Valley was 100 miles wide. Looking down from above, the mist was dense and water vapor was rising. It was like the mist of a fairyland, and it was fascinating. Phew, a light breeze blew by, and it carried strands of fragrance along with it, causing one to instantly feel refreshed upon smelling it. Looking at it from afar, it was beautiful to the point of being intoxicated by all sorts of beautiful patterns. Sun Hao looked at this scene and nodded secretly. In the future, standing on top of the stone pagoda and looking down at the entire 100 Flower Valley, it would definitely have a different kind of charm. Young master, what flowers do you need? I'll send it to you right away. The Flower Fairy waved her right hand, and the 100 Flowers Valley appeared in front of Sun Hao like a holographic projection. Sun Hao began to check, pointing to the flowers, and said, this one, young master, please wait. The Flower Fairy rose into the sky and flew toward 100 Flower Valley. Rumung, let's go dig some holes. Yes, young master. Central State's Holy Land, Supreme Court. On this day, hundreds of old men stood in front of a 100-meter-high stone tablet with a respectful expression. These old men were all Supreme Court protectors. Each of them had reached the half-immortal realm and could be regarded as a powerhouse. Soon after, the sound of the heavy stone door rubbing sounded. Under the stone tablet, a stone door slowly rose. Immediately afterward, an old man in a green robe walked out of the stone tablet. This person was the Supreme Court's dean, Zhongli Lang. He just stood there, and there was an invisible pressure on his body. It came continuously, pressing on the protectors, and suddenly made them breathless. "Welcome out of seclusion, Grand Dean." Hundreds of protectors knelt on the ground, and their voices were in unison. "Get up," Zhongli Lang said. "Thank you, Grand Dean." Everyone got up. "Can major events happen during this old man's seclusion?" Zhongli Lang asked. "Everything is as usual, and nothing major has happened." A protector stood up. "Protector Jiang, that's not right. In recent months, several major events have happened." Another protector stood up. "These small things are nothing to the Grand Dean." Protector Jiang said, "Is that so? The birth of the flower fairy is not a big deal. You're not afraid that the Grand Dean will know that you used your power for personal gain and want to keep everything in the dark, right?" As soon as these words came out, Protector Jiang's chest stagnated. "You're slandering me." "I'm slandering you?" "A few months ago, you sent Jiang Kuan to the Supreme Court's Western Academy, forced Wen Rinshi to hand over the immortal sword for your own personal gain, and was killed by Wen Rinshi. What's the result? Wen Rinshi withdrew from the Supreme Court. What we lost was a heavenly genius. Don't tell me you didn't take the Grand Dean's words seriously. Do you dare to say that you didn't do this? Jiang Kuan's actions have nothing to do with me. I think you are," before the words fell. "Okay." Zhongli Lang waved his right hand, and Protector Jiang immediately shut up. "Protector Lin, tell this old man everything that has happened in Tianluo continent in the past few months," Zhongli Lang said. "Yes, Grand Dean." Protector Lin clasped his fist and said. Zhongli Lang listened carefully and did not interrupt Protector Lin. From time to time, he frowned in deep thought, and a look of surprise flashed across his face. A moment later, "Suppress the evil spirits, save Jiang Yang, set up the overall situation, suppress the 4 generals, destroy the Blood Phoenix, kill the Pharaoh." Now, he sent the Flower Fairy to save the entire South Prefecture Immortal City. The Flower Fairy personally said that it was under the orders of the godly cunning immortal. Zhongli Lang asked. "Yes." Protector Lin nodded heavily. "Hiss!" Zhongli Lang sucked in a breath of cold air. The immortal was willing to listen to his orders, and this alone was enough to show how terrifying the godly cunning immortal was. He was probably unfathomable and unimaginable. In this world, there was actually such a person. This would be a great thing for the human race. Godly cunning immortal, I must find an opportunity to go and pay a visit. Zhongli Lang secretly thought and made a decision. Then his eyes stared at Protector Jiang. "Jiang Jiao, do you know your crime?" Plop. Protector Jiang knelt on the ground and kowtowed heavily. "Grand Dean, this little one doesn't know." Humph. Zhongli Lang snorted coldly, making Protector Jiang's body tremble. "Did this old man say anything before he went into seclusion? Have you forgotten? This old man said that no one is allowed to touch Wen Rinshi. What about you?" Zhongli Lang's voice revealed a bone-chilling coldness. "Grand Dean, it's none of my business. It's all done by Jiang Kuan." Jiang Jiao said. Hee. At this moment, you still refuse to admit your guilt." After saying that, Zhongli Lang waved his right hand, and a picture appeared in front of everyone. In the picture, it was exactly the shady business that Jiang Jiao and Jiang Kuan did. When this scene appeared, it immediately shocked everyone in place, full of disbelief. This is the time Great Tao. Time Great Tao. Seeing through the past, doesn't it mean that the Grand Dean's time Great Tao has reached the realm of great accomplishment? Incredible. Grand Dean is really amazing. Hiss. The sound of drawing in cold air sounded constantly. The group of protectors looked at Zhongli Lang, their eyes full of worship. Plop. Protector Jiang directly knelt on the ground, his face full of despair. "Grand Dean, I was wrong. Please spare my life." Protector Jiang kowtowed heavily on the ground, crying bitterly. "Do you know that Dean was this old man's good friend? Do you know how much effort this old man has put in to have a good relationship with Dinwen? You actually dare to attack this old man's good friend for an immortal sword." Zhongli Lang's voice gradually became cold. When Protector Jiang heard this, he was so frightened that he crawled on the ground, shivering. "Grandine, I was wrong. I don't dare anymore." "Don't dare? You can't be left alive for public or private reasons. Die." After saying that, Zhongli Lang pointed with his right hand, and Protector Jiang's horrified expression instantly stagnated. Boom! With an explosion, Protector Jiang's body collapsed into powder and dissipated without a trace. "Protector Lin, the Supreme Court will be left to you for the time being," Zhongli Lang said. "Grandine, are you going to find the godly cunning immortal?" "That's right." "Grandine, wait a moment. This is your letter." After saying that, Protector Lin took out a jade slip. Zhongli Lang opened it and couldn't help but frown slightly. "When Rin Jing is coming to me? This is troublesome." Chapter 227. Over Sun House Residence. Phew! Four rays of light arrived at a rapid speed. They turned into four people and stood in mid-air, looking down quietly. They were Chun Dao Ming and the others. "What's that?" Chun Dao Ming looked at Hundred Flowers Valley and could not help but frown slightly. "So many fresh flowers. So beautiful. Let's go take a look." After speaking, Su Yiling flew to Hundred Flowers Valley. Chun Dao Ming and the others shook their heads helplessly and flew down. "Who are you?" Just as they were standing outside the Hundred Flowers Valley, more than a dozen women surrounded the four of them. "Let them in." At this moment, a voice came from within the valley. "Yes, Patriarch." More than a dozen women stepped aside and gestured for him to enter. Su Yiling and the other three looked at each other and walked straight inside. Seeing the scene before them, the faces of the four were filled with astonishment. The fragrance of flowers assailed the nostrils. Wisps of immortal qi rose into the air. What strong immortal energy! There are so many immortal-grade flowers and plants. Inconceivable. It's only been a little more than a month, and there's 100 Flowers Valley to the south of Young Master's residence. Could it be that they were all invited by Young Master? Filled with doubts, the four of them walked in. "You guys are from the Evil Suppressing Alliance, right?" At this moment, a voice sounded. The four of them looked in the direction of the voice, and their pupils constricted. A woman with a graceful figure slowly walked over. The orchid dress fitted her perfectly. Before he arrived, a faint orchid fragrance assaulted his nostrils. All the fragrances of the flowers were covered by this fragrance. It was as if the ruler of flowers had arrived, and all the flowers had retreated. She was the flower fairy. "Yes, who is this girl?" Chen Dao Ming asked. "My name is Hua Xiaolan. Everyone calls me the flower fairy." As soon as these words came out, boom! A clap of thunder sounded above everyone's head. The name of the flower fairy reverberated like thunder in their ears. How could they not have heard of her? Tens of thousands of years ago, the human race went through a difficult period. At that time, they relied on the protection of flower fairies. If it weren't for the flower fairy, the entire human race on the Tianluo continent would have perished long ago. Unexpectedly, the flower fairy was still alive. That was great. "Greetings, Senior." The four of them cupped their fists and bowed. "No need, just call me Xiaolon." The flower fairy faintly smiled, overflowing with charm. This isn't too good. That's too disrespectful." Chen Dao said. "What's so bad about it? Are you trying to say that I'm very old?" The flower fairy pretended to be dignified. Chen Dao Ming waved his hand again and again. "Miss Xiaolan is as beautiful as a fairy. How can she be old? Please don't misunderstand. Miss Xiaolan is just like my sister." Su Yiling stepped forward, showing a sweet smile. "Greetings, Miss Xiaolan." "Miss Xiaolan, nice to meet you." Hearing this, the flower fairy's face flushed red with joy. "Xiaolan, do you know us?" Chen Dao Ming asked. "Of course." The flower fairy nodded. "Tens of thousands of years ago, I fought with the demon lord for hundreds of days and nights. In the end, the demon lord escaped with injuries. I didn't get any benefits either. I was heavily injured and on the verge of death. After returning to the 100 Immortal Valley, I reverted to my original form and struggled bitterly. During this period of time, although I can't take human form, I can hear everything that happens in the world. What surprised me the most was the legend of the godly cunning immortal and the evil suppression alliance that I heard during this time. I also sent people to the Jade Lake Palace to get to know the godly cunning immortal, but they were turned away by you, the Flower Fairy said. Hearing this, Chen Daoming showed a touch of embarrassment. Miss Xiaolan, I'm sorry. The young master is cultivating as a mortal and can't be disturbed, so I understand. The Flower Fairy nodded. I thought I would die in a few days. I didn't expect that the young master must have calculated that I was about to die. So he came personally and saved me with amazing means. Not only that, the young master also let me break through a big realm and even have some special power. All my current cultivation methods will restrain the evil spirits. Speaking of this, the Flower Fairy looked in the direction of Sun Hao, and her eyes were full of gratitude and worship. Chen Daoming heard this and nodded secretly. The young master really calculated everything. Too powerful. In Chen Daoming's eyes, there was uncontrollable worship, looking at Sun Hao, and he couldn't help but nod. In the future, with Miss Xiaolan, the Tianluo continent should be peaceful. Chen Daoming said. That's not necessarily true. The Flower Fairy shook her head slightly. Yesterday, the devil Ancestor and Go was going to destroy the South Prefecture Immortal City. What? The faces of Chen Daoming and the others were full of disbelief. If the young master didn't care about the damage to his Dao heart and hinted to me, how would I know? Fortunately, the young master gave me this kind of means to easily kill and go. Boom! It was like the ninth heaven's divine thunder struck Chen Daoming's mind. At this moment, he stood in the same place, and his expression changed. Inside, he seemed to have caught something. Ingo. Ingo was the ancestor of the demon race. The young master personally went to the southern region and sent the Flower Fairy to suppress it. Didn't the young master give us a hint? Impossible. Legend has it that Ingo used the heaven-splitting hook. The broken arm that the young master gave us. Wasn't it just a hook-shaped action? At this moment, Chen Daoming showed an expression of sudden realization. I didn't expect that the young master sent the broken arm. There was another meaning, 4 layers of meaning. I can only comprehend 1 layer. Our understanding is far inferior to Leader Luo AI. Chen Daoming sighed secretly, and his face showed a look of anxiety. Miss Xiaolan, are you going to send these flowers to the young master? Su Yiling asked. Yes. The Flower Fairy nodded secretly. Miss Xiaolan, have you been to the young master's residence? Su Yiling asked. Not yet, the Flower Fairy said. Then you have to be careful. Let me tell you, the young master's residence is full of big shots. If you accidentally offend them, it will be troublesome, Su Yiling said. As soon as these words came out, the Flower Fairy raised her eyebrows. Big shots? Why didn't I sense it at all? Only when you enter the courtyard door will you sense it. The stronger the strength, the stronger the sense. I tell you, if you go in and hear the sound of ducks, don't say the word ducks, otherwise the consequences will be unimaginable. That's the sound of the 9 heavens God won. Su Yiling said. What? The Flower Fairy's pupils contracted, and her face was full of shock. 9 heavens Godalwan, that was a legendary beast. She had lived for tens of thousands of years, and she had never seen it at all. The young master will have it in his residence? You're not lying to me, are you? The Flower Fairy looked at Su Yiling with a little disbelief on her face. Miss Xiaolan, this is true, Mu Bing said. Miss Xiaolan, you really have to be careful. When Rensher said, looking at everyone's serious expression, the Flower Fairy nodded secretly. Miss Xiaolan, the young master is a peerless big shot. When facing him, there are 100 things to pay attention to. Do you want to know? Su Yiling said. Looking at Su Yiling's appearance, the Flower Fairy used her divine sense and scanned Su Yiling. Immediately, roar, a shocking roar, directly shook the Flower Fairy's divine sense back. It couldn't be scanned at all. There was an incomparably terrifying existence in her body. It seemed that this little girl followed the young master's side and got far more good fortune than herself. Since she said there were 100 things to pay attention to, it was always right to listen. At this point, the 100-flower fairy nodded slightly. Please enlighten me. Chapter 228. First, when going to see the young master, you must walk up from the foot of the mountain. You must not fly up directly. That's more respectful, lest young master gets angry. Secondly, don't sit in the main seat. If young master sits on the accompanying seat, it means that there is no seat for him. Thirdly, although the young master is amiable, you must never contradict him. Everything must be centered around the young master. Fourth, when eating, if the young master has not moved his chopsticks, you must not move your chopsticks first. Otherwise, it will make the young master unhappy. Su Yiling said. As soon as these words came out, swish, Chen Dao Ming and the other two stared at Su Yiling as if they were looking at a monster. Why are you looking at me like that? Su Yiling blushed, showing a touch of embarrassment. Elder Su, aren't those words wrong? When I ate the eel last time, I seem to see you first move your chopsticks. Chen Dao Ming said. Alliance leader Chun, that's because I'm close to Gongzi. Gongzi wouldn't mind. Miss Xiao Lan is different. She only met young master yesterday. Su Yiling took the flower fairy's arm and led her forward. Elder Su, where you going? Chen Dao Ming said. President Chun, I'm going to see the young master. Su Yiling said. No. Chen Dao Ming looked cautious. Young master just woke us up. Did you forget? Don't want to go for a meal? Su Yiling swallowed her saliva a few times. Absolutely not. We still need to make a summary. Otherwise, if you go to eat, the young master may have a hint. In case of too many times, the young master's Dao heart is damaged. How can you explain it? Chen Dao Ming solemnly said. Oh, Su Yiling's mouth was long. Okay, Miss Xiaolan, I need your help with something. Chen Dao Ming cupped his fist and saluted. Don't be polite. If you have something to say, just say it. The flower fairy said. This is the case. I have a batch of soul-devouring insects here. Please help us pass them to the young master. Chen Dao Ming said. As soon as these words came out, boom, the flower fairy felt as if she had been struck by lightning, and her limbs immediately went numb. Soul-devouring insects. This name was even more terrifying than the netherworld venomous snake. With his current strength, he would definitely die if he faced it. This guy actually said he had a batch of soul-devouring insects. She even said she wanted to give it to the young master. What kind of monsters are you? How dare you provoke such a thing? Are you tired of living? Don't be afraid, Miss Xiaolan. As long as you don't release your divine sense toward the soul-devouring insects, you'll be fine. It's not convenient for us to disturb the young master. Please help me, Miss Xiaolan. Chen Dao Ming said. Hearing this, the flower fairy let out a long sigh of relief and nodded. All right then. Chen Dao Ming's thoughts moved, and hundreds of millions of blood-colored crystals flew straight out and landed on the ground, piling up like a hill. When the flower fairy saw these blood-colored crystals, her pupils constricted and her expression changed drastically. If so many soul-devouring insects were to all come alive, it would be a disaster for the entire world. With a wave of her right hand, the flower fairy hurriedly stored all the soul-devouring insects into her soul space. Then I'll go look for young master first. All right, looking at the back of the flower fairy, Chen Daoming looked at Su Yiling. Elder Su, let's go, we have a meeting. Oh, okay. The four of them gradually walked away. The flower fairy walked up the stone steps of the mountain and frowned in deep thought. If what they said was true, then wouldn't there be a group of immortal kings living in the young master's residence? The one who could make the immortal king surrender was at least an immortal venerable. Unexpectedly, the young master turned out to be an immortal venerable? At this point, hiss, the flower fairy took a breath of cold air. It was better to believe it than not to believe it. I have to be careful later. The flower fairy looked nervous, and her body trembled slightly. Unconsciously, she had arrived at the gate of Sun Hao's residence. The flower fairy looked at the courtyard door, looked up and scanned, and did not sense anything unusual. It looked like a mortal's residence, ordinary and unremarkable. Taking a deep breath, "Young master," the flower fairy shouted. After shouting this, the flower fairy clenched her hands, and her body trembled slightly. She looked very nervous. Be sure not to look at the lotus. Be sure not to shout the duck. The flower fairy muttered to herself and kept repeating certain words. Creak. The door opened. Sister Xiaolan, so fast? Please come in. Huang Rumong said with a smile. Thank you, Sister Rumong. The flower fairy followed behind Huang Rumong and lowered her head. Glancing around, she couldn't help but feel her scalp explode. A terrifying aura, like a tsunami, pressed down on her, making it hard for her to breathe. She had a feeling that the lotus demon in the pond, with just a thought, could crush her into pieces, and she wouldn't even have a chance to struggle. She hadn't recovered from the shock. At this time, quack! A duck's cry made her scalp tingle. Greetings, Senior. The flower fairy hurriedly used her divine sense to send a voice transmission. Not bad. Quite polite. This old man likes it. Cherish the good fortune. Two roars shook in her mind. The flower fairy took a long breath and glanced around. Sure enough, it was really the Nine Heavens god wand. Looking at its appearance, it was really the young master's pet. It was incredible. In this world, a divine beast could also be raised as a pet. It seemed that there had never been such a legend. There had never been such a record in ancient books. In today's world, there was probably no one but the young master. Boom! Boom! The flower fairy's heart couldn't help but beat violently. She foolishly thought that the young master was just an immortal venerable. To be able to raise a divine beast as a pet, even an ordinary immortal emperor couldn't do it. There was only one possibility. The young master was a supreme, immortal emperor. Thinking of this, hiss! The cold air of the whole world was sucked into the flower fairy's mouth. Her whole body was cold, and her feet trembled slightly. Unexpectedly, she actually played landlord with the supreme, immortal emperor. If this gets out, I'm afraid that the immortal king would be scared silly. The problem was that she still wanted to win against the supreme, immortal emperor. If this made the supreme, immortal emperor unhappy, he would sweep his eyes over. Boom! She would explode into powder and die completely. It was simply brainless. Such a character, she still wanted to win against him. It was too late to lick. No wonder. Huang Ruming played cards like this. This licking skill was simply invincible and unparalleled in the world. She must study hard. She must carry forward the licking skill. Thinking like this, the flower fairy secretly clenched her fists with a firm face. Greetings, young master. The flower fairy came to Sun Hao's side and bowed. Miss Xiaolan is welcome. Please come with me. Sun Hao said with a smile. Yes, young master. Following behind Sun Hao, the flower fairy secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the young master was kind and didn't put on any airs. Young master, where are you going to plant these flowers? The flower fairy asked. Backyard, Sun Hao said. Young master, let me help you. The flower fairy said. Thank you, Miss Xiaolan. I'll be right there. After speaking, Sun Hao opened the backyard door. Suddenly, the flower fairy was stunned in place, and her face was full of shock. Chapter 229. Open a backyard. A surge of deity qi whizzed over. The flower fairy closed her eyes and inhaled. Her face was filled with shock. Taking a light breath was equivalent to cultivating for several months. The intensity of the immortal qi was simply unimaginable. Zhang Xian opened his eyes and swept his gaze across the surroundings. The flower fairy's pupils constricted and her expression changed. That's a field of immortal fruits, and it was a peerless immortal fruit. Each of them is worth at least 10 supreme-grade immortal crystals. What? That was enlightenment tea. So many tea leaves? No. Unbelievable. If a few of them were to leak out, it would definitely cause a bloodbath. The world is in chaos. That's a supreme, immortal medicine. There seems to be a patch of immortal godly herbs over there. My ancestors. Is young master really just a peerless immortal emperor? So many supreme treasures. Can a supreme, immortal emperor have them all? Young master, what kind of existence are you? The flower fairy looked at Sun Hao's back, and the expression on her face changed. Worship, shock, surprise, admiration reverence, all kinds of expressions intertwined. His heart beat wildly, as if it was being squeezed by someone. She took a few deep breaths and quietly followed behind Sun Hao. Soon, the three of them arrived in front of the soul-immersing divine wood. This is? The flower fairy stared blankly at the 1,000-meter-tall, soul-sinking divine wood. When he was outside just now, he didn't see anything. Only after entering the backyard did he see such a huge, ancient tree. It was incredible. This is the soul-sinking divine wood. It has grown for at least hundreds of thousands of years. The flower fairy's eyes widened in disbelief. The soul-sinking divine wood was a supreme, immortal tree that was only a step away from becoming a god tree. Once it grew well, it could even become a world tree, supporting the world and using it to traverse the void and head into the depths of the universe. He took a few deep breaths. Young master here. The flower fairy took out hundreds of different flowers and placed them on the ground. Miss Xiaolan, this is fertilizer, this is rooting powder, this. Sun Hao took a few big bags and began to introduce them. The flower fairy's eyes widened again upon seeing this. This fertilizer is actually made from supreme, immortal herbs. How is this spring water? This is obviously a supreme, immortal spring. The flower fairy's expression became calmer and calmer. He was already numb from the shock. In front of the young master, she was like a little girl who had just left the mountain village and had never seen the world. In other words, he was a country bumpkin. She looked at Sun Hao's movements and learned it well. Every movement was extremely ordinary. However, the effect was astonishing. It only took a moment for the flowers to grow rapidly. By the time all the flowers and plants were planted, the area beneath the soul-immersing divine wood was already blooming with flowers, and it was too beautiful to behold. With just a glance, one would be intoxicated, unwilling to leave for a long time. Sun Hao looked at the flower fairy and nodded secretly from time to time. Miss Xiaolan's talent in planting is unparalleled. She's only learning from me for the first time, but she's already so good. She's much stronger than Meng Qi. If I leave with Rumeng, I can leave this place to her. Sun Hao smiled slightly and secretly relaxed. As for whether she was willing to help, impossible. These plants of his could produce immortal energy. She didn't care for them? This backyard was the best place to cultivate. As long as he brought it up, she would definitely agree. Sun Hao secretly thought about it and wrote it down. Miss Xiaolan, thank you very much. Sun Hao said, Young master, it's me who should thank you. Your planting skills have really opened my eyes. The flower fairy said, You're welcome. Miss Xiaolan, since you're here today, let's have dinner before you leave. Sun Hao said, Eat. The flower fairy frowned slightly. This was something only mortals did, right? From the transformation to the present. Not to mention eating, she hadn't even eaten medicinal pills. Even her taste buds hadn't been opened, and she didn't know what it was like to eat. However, she couldn't dampen the young master's interest. Since she wanted to cultivate licking skills, she must cultivate it to perfection. Thank you, young master. The flower fairy nodded. You're welcome. Today, let's eat braised loach. What do you think? Sun Hao asked. Loach? This kind of vulgar thing? The young master actually liked to eat it? No way. There was no way. She could only reluctantly take a bite. Okay, young master. Miss Xiaolan, this loach tastes good. You're lucky. The three walked to a pond and pointed to the dragon inside. As soon as these words came out, the flower fairy was stunned in place, as if she had been hit in the head. Young master, do you mean this loach? The flower fairy asked. Yeah, what's wrong? Sun Hao said. Boom! An explosion of thunder. The loach in the young master's mouth turned out to be a dragon. Is the young master going to eat a dragon? My ancestor, is the young master not afraid of the supreme existence behind the dragon race? What should I do? Should I eat it or not? If I eat it, I will definitely leave a dragon mark in my body. At that time, I will be chased by the dragon race, and finally, I will end up with my soul scattered. If you don't eat it, it will make the young master unhappy. Maybe it will ruin this path of creation. What should I do? For a while, the flower fairy was in a dilemma. After thinking about it, a plan came to her mind. First, give the soul-devouring bug to the young master. and then find an excuse to leave. This dragon race must not be eaten. The flower fairy thought secretly and said, "Young master, Chun Dao Ming asked me to bring you some crystal stones." "Brother Chun? Where is he?" Sun Hao's eyes glowed. "Young master, he is at the foot of the mountain," the flower fairy said. "Did Miss Yiling and the others see them?" Sun Hao asked. "Young master, yes. A total of 4 people," the flower fairy said. Sun Hao touched his chin with his right hand, and the corners of his mouth rose with a thoughtful look. "In that case, they are back. Then today I must make a loach feast." "Miss Yaolan, today I want to make a loach feast. You are not allowed to find an excuse to leave," Sun Hao said. As soon as these words came out, the flower fairy's face was full of bitterness. That smile was uglier than crying. "Yes, yes, young master. Young master, should I give you the crystal stones first?" the flower fairy said. "Okay." Sun Hao nodded. The flower fairy waved her right hand. "Who?" Pieces of blood-colored crystal stones fell to the ground, piling up like a small hill. When Huang Rumping saw this scene, her pupils shrank, her body trembled slightly, and her mouth murmured, "Soul-devouring bug. It's a bit like a ruby, it's pretty." Sun Hao stepped forward, picked up a piece, and looked at it in his hand. Immediately, "Kacha!" The sound of an eggshell cracking sounded. A crack appeared on the red crystal stone, and then it burst apart. A soul-devouring bug aimed at Sun Hao and bit crazily. However, it itched, but there was no feeling. After biting for a while, the soul-devouring bug crawled in Sun Hao's hand, shivering. "A bug? Beetle?" Sun Hao was shocked. The gem turned into a bug. It turned into a red beetle. This wonderful scene could only be seen in this world. Could it be that these were all beetles? Didn't chickens love to eat bugs? Just in time for the 9-colored golden pheasant to eat. Brother Chun is really good. He actually caught bugs to feed his chicken. Too thoughtful. "Xiaoying," Sun Hao shouted softly. "Gua." Suddenly, the 9 heavens god Luan rushed from the front yard and kept circling around Sun Hao. Chapter 230. Gua Gua. The 9 heavens god Luan circled around Sun Hao, constantly rubbing against his trousers and cawing. "Come, let's eat." Sun Hao threw the soul-devouring bug in front of the 9 heavens god Luan. The 9 heavens god Luan opened its eyes to look, and all the hair on its body stood up. Soul-devouring insects. Of course, he recognized it. Back then, he was almost killed by the soul-devouring insects. What he saw now was an instinctive fear. Croak. The 9 heavens god Luan flapped its wings and took 2 steps back. Its eyes stared at the soul-devouring insect, its face full of fear. Sun Hao looked at this scene and shook his head for a while. This was obviously a chicken that had never eaten bugs before. It was actually afraid of such a small bug. He was speechless. "Hurry up and eat that bug, or I will stew you in a chicken soup," Sun Hao said. As soon as these words came out, the 9 heavens god Luan trembled. He scanned with his divine will. He secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, this soul-devouring insect strength was not even 1% of its original strength, so it should be able to eat it. The 9 heavens god Luan secretly thought, and quickly ran in front of the soul-devouring insect. Closing his eyes, he forcefully pecked at the soul-devouring worm and swallowed it. Phew! A surge of soul power flowed from his meridians into his mind. At this moment, the 9 heavens god Luan could clearly feel its soul soaring. After digesting the soul-devouring worm, he did not feel any discomfort. Croak! The 9 heavens god Luan ran to Sun Hao and kept rubbing his trousers. "You still want more?" "Gua!" The 9 heavens god Luan kept nodding. "All right." Sun Hao picked up a handful of blood-colored crystals and swung them with his hand. Pong, pong. They exploded like popcorn. One by one, the soul-devouring insects lay in Sun Hao's hands, shivering. "Eat!" Sun Hao sprinkled the soul-devouring insects on the ground like grains. Croak! The 9 heavens god Luan was like a chicken pecking rice, quickly eating. He looked like he was eating very happily. When the flower fairy saw this, her expression kept changing. In front of the young master, the soul-devouring insects didn't even have the courage to struggle. The young master only needed to gently clench his hand to seal all the abilities of the soul-devouring insects, making them unable to use them. The 9 heavens god wand ate it directly without any discomfort. In the young master's eyes, the soul-devouring bug was just a bug. After a while, the 9 heavens god wand was lying on the ground, lazily basking in the sun. It looks like little Ing is full. Rumung, please put away all the other insects. Sunhow said, Yes, young master. With a wave of her right hand, Huang Ruming absorbed all the blood-colored crystals into her soul space. The 9 heavens god Luan was a chicken in the young master's eyes. In the young master's eyes, the soul-devouring bug was just a bug. In the young master's eyes, those immortal herbs were probably just ordinary herbs. The supreme treasure in her eyes was extremely ordinary in the young master's eyes, so ordinary that it was no longer ordinary. Young master, what kind of existence are you? You can't be the creator, right? The flower fairy muttered to herself, looking at Sun Hao with a face full of worship. Miss Xiaolan, take a rest first. It's getting late. I'll cook first. It'll be ready soon. After Sun Hao finished speaking, he gave Huang Ruming a look. Huang Ruming took out the kitchen utensils and handed them to Sun Hao. Sun Hao took out the net and gently scooped up hundreds of loaches. He grabbed one, cut open its belly with a knife, and squeezed out its intestines. Then, he threw it into the bowl. The whole action was smooth, without any stagnation. A moment later, hundreds of loaches were cleaned by him. Boil the immortal tea oil. The loaches were poured into it. The oil splashed everywhere. A burning smell came to his face. In less than a moment, it was golden. Pick it up and drain it. Pour oil in the pot. Heat it to 70% heat. Add shallot, ginger. After stir-frying, pour water, add tofu, and boil. A moment later, the strong fragrance wafted in all directions. Gulp. The flower fairy touched her stomach, and the saliva in her mouth secreted quickly. She looked at the steaming cauldron with a surprised face. I'm hungry. This is impossible, right? This is the dragon race. You must not eat it. Otherwise, you will die. But my life was saved by the young master, and he told me to eat it and not to leave. What should I do? What should I do? The flower fairy muttered to herself, extremely tangled. Rumung, you take Miss Xiaolan to pick some vegetables and some tea leaves, by the way. The next dish, I'm going to make stewed loach tea. Sun Hao said. Yes, young master. Huang Ruming nodded and walked to the flower fairy. Sister Xiaolan, let's go. Okay. The flower fairy nodded subconsciously and followed behind Huang Rumung. She looked around and didn't find a vegetable garden. Sister Rumung, where are the vegetables? The flower fairy asked. Don't worry, we'll be there soon. Soon, the two walked to a piece of immortal divine medicine. This is? The flower fairy asked. This is a vegetable, Huang Rumung said. Boom! A thunderclap blasted the flower fairy for a long time without any reaction. This is a vegetable? What does this look like a vegetable? It's obviously an immortal divine medicine. Don't tell me you're using it to stew loaches. Oh, dragons? 10? You're going to pick 10? What? 100? More than 500? Hiss! The flower fairy took a breath of cold air, and her eyes widened. More than 500 immortal divine medicine for cooking? It was simply unheard of and unseen. What is a god of wealth? What is a big shot? This is a real big shot. Even the one from the dragon race is nothing compared to the young master. Then what is there to be afraid of? Eat, I must eat hard. This kind of good fortune may not be cultivated in 10,000 lifetimes. Sister Xiaolan, let's go. Huang Ruming's voice awakened the flower fairy. Oh. Then the two came to the tea garden. The flower fairy followed behind, quietly watching Huang Ruming's movements. Then her scalp exploded and her eyes widened again. Are you going to pick enlightenment tea leaves? The flower fairy's expression stagnated. Sister Xiaolan, don't just stand there. Come and help. Huang Rumung said. Oh, okay. How many do we pick? The flower fairy asked. How many? Do I still need Sister Xiaolan's help with a few? Of course, thousands. Huang Rumung said. What? Thousands? The flower fairy's originally numb heart surged again. Thousands of enlightenment tea leaves. What does this mean? Do you know? It's enough to buy dozens of life planets. Sister Rumung, you picked so much at once, there won't be much left. The flower fairy said. Don't worry, it will grow up in a few days. Huang Rumung said. The flower fairy opened her mouth, but she didn't say a word. At this moment, endless chill surged through the flower fairy's body. It will grow up in a few days? Doesn't enlightenment tea need to be picked once every 3,000 years? A few days? My ancestor. What kind of existence is the young master? Except for the creator, the flower fairy really can't think of anything to describe Sun Hao. It seems that the young master must be the creator. I didn't expect that I, Hua Xiaolan, would know the creator one day. Chapter 231. At the foot of the mountain, in a secret room of a loft, Chen Dao Ming and the other three sat together. Su Yiling held her cheeks in her hands and looked at Sun Hao's residence from time to time, curling her small mouth. Elders, my comprehension is not good enough. I can't be the deputy alliance leader anymore. Chen Dao Ming saluted with a bitter face. Leader Chen, among us, you have the best perception. If you don't do it, then who can do it? When Renshi said, Yeah, why do you say that? Mu Bing asked, Alliance leader Chen, your comprehension is truly impressive. As soon as you received the severed arm, you immediately asked Elder Wen to sever his own arm. You made me stop Wen Zhang. Fortunately, Wen Zhang's left arm was broken by Ho Qing. Otherwise, how could Elder Wen obtain such good fortune? Su Yiling said. As soon as these words came out, the corners of Wen Renshi's mouth rose, looking proud. That's right, my arm can break a top-grade immortal weapon with my bare hands. However, this is all thanks to the young master. As long as we understand the meaning of the young master will not treat us badly. When Renshi said, Sigh, Chen Daoming sighed heavily. Ashamed. Chen Daoming shook his head for a while. Alliance Master Chen, what does this mean? When Renshi asked, the young master gave us an arm. There are 4 layers of meaning. Chen Daoming said. 4th floor. Everyone was puzzled. Isn't it the 3rd floor? Su Yiling scratched her head with a puzzled look. The 1st level is to break one of your arms. The 2nd level is to remind us that we can no longer rely on the young master. The 3rd level is a great fortune for Elder One. As for the 4th floor, the young master told us that Ingo was born and let us destroy it. Chen Daoming said. What? Winning hook? How did you know? Seeing the puzzled look of the 3, Chen Daoming shook his head secretly. Does everyone remember the action of breaking the arm? Chen Daoming asked. It looks like the flower-pinching finger, but also like a seductive action. That's right. Ingo's heaven-rending claw isn't like this, right? The young master hinted that Ingo is about to be born. Chen Daoming said. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air when they heard this. I didn't expect the young master to have a 4th meaning. The young master's intentions are unimaginable. It's too terrifying. If it wasn't for the young master personally taking action, I'm afraid the entire South Manor Mortal City would have been destroyed. The few of them muttered to themselves in shame. From today onwards, we can no longer rely on young master. Young master has given us many pointers and helped us many times. Every time, young master has to risk the danger of his Tao heart being exposed to save us. The young master cherishes the world and does not care about fame and fortune. This mind is unprecedented, Chen Daoming said. Yes. When Renshi looked at Sun Hao's residence, tears brewing in his eyes. Well said. Mu Bing nodded. That makes sense. Su Yiling stood up and sniffed. I have a few ideas that I'd like to share with everyone. If anyone has any suggestions, feel free to voice them out. Chen Daoming said one sentence at a time, spitting out all his thoughts. When Renshi and Mu Bing nodded in agreement from time to time and expressed their opinions, Su Yiling sat there, holding her cheeks in her hands, looking at the 3 people, frowning. It smells so good. Su Yiling stood up involuntarily and walked out. Young master is cooking delicious food. I'm coming. Walking out of the secret room, Su Yiling took a step, turned into a light shadow, and disappeared. For Su Yiling's disappearance, several people did not notice at all. and continued to discuss. We must keep the evil in mind, and we can't ask young master to instruct us every time. Now, the power of our evil suppression alliance is already relatively large, completely comparable to the Supreme Court. I'm going to set up a hunting team to hunt the evil, with Elder Mu as the captain, responsible for selection and appointment. What do you think? Chen Daoming asked. No problem. Mu Bing nodded. However, to set up a hunting team, we can't just rely on slogans. We need actual rewards, so as to maintain everyone's enthusiasm. Where does our evil suppression alliance have financial support? Mu Bing asked. This, Chen Daoming looked stunned. When it came to funds, it was really a headache. The evil suppression alliance was not ordinary poor. Several principals did not have communication jade slips between each other. Not to mention, there was a flying boat. If this was said, I'm afraid they would laugh their teeth off. The evil suppression alliance, which was famous throughout the Tianluo continent, was unexpectedly poor. Without funds, what should they do? Collect membership fees? Not good. Originally, everyone was doing things that tied their heads to their belts, and maybe one day they would die. Moreover, most people were not wealthy cultivators. Forcing fees would only make the evil suppression alliance distracted. Then there was only one way to sell enlightenment tea leaves. One piece was enough to support the evil suppression alliance's annual expenses. However, once this thing came out, it would definitely lead to a bloody storm. I'm afraid it would cause the purple sun star to fall into chaos. It may even cause the cultivators of other planets to covet and attack the purple sun star. No, absolutely can't sell it. What should I do? For a moment, Chen Daoming was in a dilemma. Buzz! Suddenly, there was a vibration. He opened the soul space and took out the communication jade slip. It read, Leader Chun sold all the 5-spirit immortal gold fragments and got more than 2 million immortal crystals. I'm already sending it to you. It's on the way, on Zhan Shao's immortal boat. The one who sent the message was the sect master of the Red Refining Sect in the northern region, Xiang Shurchen. Seeing this news, Chen Daoming's eyes lit up. It really didn't take any effort at all. What? More than 2 million immortal crystals? Mu Bing's eyes widened, full of disbelief. Even her Mu family, as one of the 3 great families of the Holy Land, had a yearly income of only a few hundred immortal crystals. After deducting expenses, there was less than 100 immortal crystals left. After so many years of accumulation, the inventory was only tens of thousands of immortal crystals. It was simply unimaginable to get more than 2 million immortal crystals at once. Since there is financial support, then this hunting captain, I will be. Mu Bing nodded. With funds, there must be communication jade slips between us and each other. In addition, flying with immortal power consumes too much. In case of danger, we can't deal with it. So, each of us must have a flying boat. Hearing Chen Daoming's arrangement, when Rensher nodded together in deep agreement. Hey, where's Elder Su? The 3 of them looked sluggish and looked around with a puzzled expression. When Su Yiling left, the 3 of them had no idea. I'm here. At this time, Su Yiling ran in quickly. Don't be stunned. The young master asked you to go eat. Hurry up. The dishes are ready. Su Yiling said. Hearing this, Chen Daoming's body trembled. It must be that I didn't realize anything. The young master is going to start pointing again. I must pay attention to the young master's words and deeds later, and I must not be careless. Chen Daoming breathed a sigh of relief, looked at Mu Bing and Wen Rensher, and nodded. The 4 of them quickly ran up the mountain. Chapter 232. Greetings, young master. Chen Daoming and the other 2 stood in front of Sun Hao, clasping their fists and saluting. Looking at the 10 dishes on the table, their pupils constricted. The dragon race. They were all dragons. Moreover, it was an entire strip. It was simply unimaginable. Do you dare to imagine a dragon in one mouthful? Don't just stand there. Sit down, sit down. The weather is getting cold, and the dishes get cold easily. Eat. Sun Hao's voice woke Chen Daoming and the others. Yes, young master. Everyone took their seats. The flower fairy's eyes lit up as she looked at the 10 dishes on the table. That muffled loach tea was brewed with 1,000 enlightenment tea leaves. That pot of loach stewed tofu has more than 500 stalks of immortal godly herbs in it. Just the aroma alone can make one's cultivation soar. There's also that plate of braised loach. It's even more terrifying. The sauce it uses is all secretly concocted by immortal medicines. The flower fairy's eyes lit up, and she swallowed her saliva from time to time. As an immortal, he had never eaten an immortal divine herb before, not to mention the dragon meat soup made from over 500 immortal herbs. Who knew how much lifespan could be increased with just one bite? This was really unimaginable. Seeing that Sun Hao didn't move, the flower fairy naturally didn't dare to move her chopsticks first. Young master, your cooking is too fragrant. I really can't help it. Su Yiling directly picked up a braised loach and began to chew. Gotcha! The loach was crispy on the outside and tender on the inside. With a light bite, one's mouth was filled with fragrance. The meat was fresh and tender with a bit of elasticity, mixed with saltiness, fragrance, and spiciness. It was so delicious that there was no way to describe it. This is too delicious. Su Yiling let out a soft cry, closed her eyes, and showed an expression of enjoyment. Seeing this scene, everyone swallowed their saliva from time to time. In front of Sun Hao, only Su Yiling dared to make the first move. Looking at everyone's eager expression, Sun Hao raised the corner of his mouth. Everyone, don't just stand there. Hurry up and eat. It won't taste good if it gets cold. Under Sun Hao's leadership, everyone moved their chopsticks. Tofu braised loach tasted exceptionally smooth. Whoosh! With a gentle suction, the flesh and bone were separated. The loach meat went straight into his mouth. It was sweet and delicious. That kind of extreme freshness made all the cells in his taste buds become active. Phew! The surging celestial force flowed in his body and went straight into his dantian. Not good. Su Yiling was shocked and quickly stopped. He was about to break through. He was about to become an immortal. What should he do? Could he withstand such a terrifying immortal tribulation? She activated her cultivation technique to prevent the immortal energy from flowing into her dantian. Miss Yiling, this is not like you. You just ate a few loaches and you stopped. Is the taste not good? Then try this tea-scented loach. After speaking, Sun Hao picked a few for Su Yiling. Young master, Su Yiling looked at the yellow loaches and swallowed saliva from time to time. How can I not eat the food that young master gave me? Wasn't it just an immortal tribulation? What's there to be scared of? Su Yiling picked up one and sent it directly into her mouth. Phew! Terrifying celestial power whizzed over. Su Yiling couldn't suppress it at all. Gotcha! The barrier of the realm shattered right away. The Taotai in her dantian shattered into pieces of light and shadow. Following that, immortal energy surged throughout her body. This power, along with the immortal energy, flowed into every cell. Her body was undergoing a metamorphosis. He shed his mortal body and became an immortal body. From then on, she was a real immortal. Her physical body would be strengthened more than 10 times. Su Yiling closed her eyes, ran her cultivation technique, and tempered her physical body, not letting go of the slightest power. The whole process was indescribably comfortable. Several times, she almost cried out. After a while, Su Yiling opened her eyes, and an immortal aura emanated out. On her body, it exuded a faint glow. The temperament of the whole person had changed dramatically. There was an indescribable beauty in her every move. Su Yiling looked up, but found that everyone was looking at her. No immortal tribulation? Chun Dao Ming murmured, his eyes flashing. So, the Thunder Tribulation Giant really didn't dare to come? Young master, mighty? Then there was nothing to worry about. Without any politeness, Chun Dao Ming picked up the loach and swallowed it piece by piece. After Mu Bing and Wen Renshi glanced at Su Yiling, they quickly picked up the loach and swallowed it. She became an immortal? The flower fairy muttered to herself, looking at Su Yiling, and then looked at the sky, frowning. That is the Thunder Tribulation Forbidden Circle. Within 100 miles, there will be no more Thunder Tribulation. Young master, You are really amazing. Even the Thunder Tribulation Giant is afraid of you." The flower fairy muttered to herself, and the color of worship was written all over her face. Then she picked up the loach and ate it quickly, without the slightest politeness. After a while, Chun Dao Ming broke through and became an immortal. There was no change in the sky. Immediately afterward, it was Mu Bing and Wen Rinshi. The sky still did not change. Everyone's face was full of uncontrollable surprise. They looked at Sun Hao with grateful faces. Sun Hao had a panoramic view of everyone's reaction. There was a faint smile at the corner of his mouth. Sure enough, as I expected, the dishes I made have the effect of enhancing my cultivation. Looking at their reaction, they must have broken through, otherwise they wouldn't look like that. No wonder they respect me so much. All of this makes sense. Sun Hao's eyes shone. He secretly opened the blessing point panel, looked at the rapidly growing blessing point, and nodded slightly. I don't know how strong I am. Find a place to test it. Maybe I have the ability to tear the sky and crack the earth. Maybe my Guqin will produce a sound wave attack, killing people without any form. I will take Rumung to try it tomorrow. Sun Hao thought secretly and made a decision. I'm going to break through again. The flower fairy sat in the same place, full of disbelief. She had just broken through to Earth Immortal, and now she was going to break through to Celestial Immortal? This was like a dream. Gotcha! As soon as she reacted, the realm membrane shattered, and she successfully reached the Celestial Immortal realm. The flower fairy was directly dumbfounded, and the shock was indescribable. Now, she could be sure that facing the Demon Lord, she could definitely beat him. It was even possible to blast him to death. My soul has strengthened at least 10 times. Incredible. Today's meal is so worth it. Even if I am obliterated by the dragon race in the future, I will die without regrets. The flower fairy muttered to herself, her face full of light. Soon after, everyone ate and drank. Are you all done? Sun Hao asked. Everyone nodded in unison. Chun Dao Ming's body trembled slightly, secretly watching Sun Hao's movements. The young master's instructions were coming, and he must be careful. Hey, there is still one left. Sun Hao looked at the bottom of the pot and poked a loach with a spoon. There is still one left? What do you mean by this? I must think about it carefully. Chun Dao Ming muttered to himself, thinking secretly. His whole person was restless. Xiaoying ate too much today. I can only throw it away. Sun Hao picked up the pot and walked to the pond outside. Suddenly, Chun Dao Ming's eyes flashed. Young master, I realized it. Chapter 233. Sun Hao's residence, at the foot of the mountain on the west side. In a secret underground room of the attic. Leader Chun, why are you in such a hurry? Mu Bing asked. That's right, I just finished eating. Su Yiling touched her round belly with a look of satisfaction. When I finish digesting, I'm afraid I can become a Xian immortal. Yes, so full. Mu Bing nodded. I don't want to move. If it weren't for Leader Chun, I might have fallen asleep at the young master's place. Wen Rinshi sat on the stool with a smile on his face. The young master has new instructions. Chun Dao Ming said solemnly. What instructions? Leader Chun, you have a high understanding. Just say it all. Wen Rinshi said. Good. Chun Dao Ming nodded. Today, the young master said there was one more. Do you remember? Chun Dao Ming asked. Of course, isn't there still one dragon left? I really can't eat it. Wen Rinshi said. Chun Dao Ming kept shaking his head. You guys, why don't you care at all? How can the young master's words be understood only superficially? The young master is telling us that there is still a big fish that has not been dealt with. Chun Dao Ming said. What? Mu Bing and the other two looked at Chun Dao Ming in surprise. Elder One, if I remember correctly, there are 4 demon ancestors in the demon race, right? Chun Dao Ming asked. Yes, the 4 demon ancestors are Jian Chun, Hamba, Ingo, and Ho Qing. Speaking of this, Wen Rinshi seemed to realize something. He looked at Chun Dao Ming, and his voice trembled slightly. Hamba has been enlightened by the young master. Ingo was killed by the flower fairy, and Ho Qing was eaten by the soul, devouring insects. Now, There's only one left, and that is Jiangchen. The young master said, there's another meaning. Is it referring to this Jiangchen? When Renshi asked, yes, Chen Daoming nodded slightly. As soon as these words came out, hiss, everyone took a breath of cold air. Unexpectedly, the young master actually meant this. The young master seemed unintentional, but his intention was extremely deep. If it weren't for Leader Chen's good perception, how could he think of it? Alliance Master Chen, does that mean the demon's next step is to resurrect Jiangchen? Asked Wen Renshi. Of course. Chen Daoming nodded. What? Mu Bing's face was filled with astonishment. Jiangchen is the strongest of the 4 great demon forefathers. Legend has it that he was formed from the flesh of an ancient evil beast, the Ho. He has no soul. Is this true? That's true. According to the cultivation historical records, although Jiangchen doesn't have a soul, his physical body is incomparably terrifying. He can tear the heavens and rend the earth. We've seen Ho Qing. His body is perfectly preserved. I'm afraid this Jiangchen Jiang is 100 times more terrifying, perhaps even 1,000 times. Once resurrected, on Purple Sunstar, who can be his opponent? When Renshi said, as soon as these words came out, Mu Bing sucked in a breath of cold air, her face full of fear. Isn't there the young master? Su Yiling said, young master? Chen Daoming shook his head slightly. Elder Su, the young master is now cultivating as a mortal, and it is not convenient to make a move. Also, have you forgotten that the young master just woke us up? You can't rely on the young master for everything, understand? Chen Daoming said. Oh, Su Yiling scratched her head, her face flushed. I know, so we must solve this matter ourselves. Chen Daoming said. Leader Chen, it's easy to say, but it's not easy to do. Where's this Jiangchen? It doesn't seem to be recorded in the cultivation historical records. When Renshi said, Chen Daoming smiled slightly, revealing an inscrutable smile. The young master has pointed it out. Pointed it out? Is there? Su Yiling scratched her head, her face puzzled. Remember the young master's action of fishing out the last loach? Chen Daoming asked. I remember the young master poked it a few times with a spoon. Is there anything wrong with that? When Renshi said, Chen Daoming didn't answer and stroked his silver hair with his hand. What is a loach? Dragon. Is it really a dragon? It should be called Death. What is the name of the place where the dead dragon is buried? Dragon Tomb. I see. When Renshi's eyes shone. It turns out that the young master poked the dead dragon heavily to tell us that Jiangchen is in the dragon tomb. Right? When Renshi said, as soon as these words came out, Mu Bing looked surprised and nodded secretly. Su Yiling scratched her head and looked puzzled. The young master poked the loach and told us to go to the dragon tomb? This is too hard to understand. Chen Daoming looked at Wen Renshi and nodded slightly. Elder, when your perception is also good. Next, shall we go to the dragon tomb immediately? When Renshi asked, no hurry. Chen Daoming shook his head slightly. The demons have just suffered this blow, and they won't recover so quickly. In order to prevent me from comprehending wrongly, I must make some preparations, just in case. Speaking of this, Chen Daoming looked at Mu Bing. Elder Mu, please tell the 4 ancestors to stop suppressing their realms. After breaking through the immortal realm, come here immediately. Mu Bing was shocked. How could she forget such an important thing? Okay, I'll go right away. Mu Bing finished speaking and quickly left. Soon after, Mu Bing came quickly with the 4 ancestors of the Mu family and stood in front of Chen Daoming. There was uncontrollable surprise on everyone's face. Leader Chen, what instructions do you have? Mu Ao asked. Senior Mu, since all 4 of you are already immortals, then there's one thing I need your help with. Chen Daoming said, if I can do something for the young master, I will not hesitate to go through fire and water. Mu Ao said, Senior, in order to prevent the evil spirits from invading the Tianluo continent, I need the 4 of you to guard the east, south, and west regions respectively. No problem, right? Chen Daoming said, no problem. Elder Mu, when the funds arrive, you immediately recruit members of the hunting team. Chen Daoming said, no problem. Mu Bing nodded. Elder One, You go with me to guard the dragon tomb and wait for the rabbit. Chen Daoming said. When do we leave? When Run Shi said. Don't worry. Wait until Xiang Shichen comes. Chen Daoming said. Okay. What about me? Su Yiling stood up with a sweet smile on her face. You? Chen Daoming looked up and down at Su Yiling. You need to stay here and contact us. As long as the young master has any instructions, tell us immediately. Great. I have delicious food to eat every day. The corners of Su Yiling's mouth rose, and shallow dimples appeared on both sides. However, how can I contact you? I don't have a messenger jade slip. This old man has it. After saying that, Mu Ao took out a pile of messenger jade slips and placed them on the table. Every 2 jade slips were paired with each other and sent one-to-one messages. Seeing these messenger jade slips, everyone's eyes lit up. Thank you, Senior Mu. Between the 2 of us, take a pair. Okay, seniors, please set off now. If there is any change, immediately send a message to us. Okay. The 4 ancestors of the Mu family quickly left. Chapter 234. Heavenly Demon Continent in a blood-colored palace. Shui sat in the main seat, gazing at the 2 bottles of blood essence in his hands with a flickering light. He looked at Tian Sha, who was kneeling on the ground, and his gaze did not waver. Tian Sha, how did you obtain these 2 bottles of essence blood? Shui asked. Master, these 2 bottles of blood essence were given to me by old Ancestor Ingo. Tian Sha said. For you. Shui released his aura, and his pressure whistled out. As far as I know, old Ancestor Ingo isn't easy to get along with. Master, you're right. When we saw old Ancestor Ingo, he killed all of our subordinates. Only Hun Sha and I survived. Seeing that our strength is not bad, he didn't kill us. He said that trash doesn't need to live. After that, he took out 2 bottles of blood essence and asked us to take care of it. It was for the sake of giving old Ancestor Ingo a chance to revive. However, that flower fairy is too terrifying. She used her skill, and the orchid blotted out the sky and covered the earth. She killed the Ancestor on the spot. Even his soul was no exception. Even Brother Hun Sha died on the spot. Luckily, I hid far enough and used the evil spirit escape talisman at the first moment. That's how I survived. However, the consciousnesses of the 2 patriarchs have completely collapsed. Master, it's all my fault. Please punish me. With that, Tian Sha kowtowed nonstop. Shui nodded slightly upon hearing this. The heavens are really on my side. I'm just short of 2 drops of blood essence, and I'll be able to do that big thing. Now it's time to collect Forefather Jiangshan's blood essence. Shui murmured to himself as a red glow flickered in his eyes. After a long time, he stared at Tian Sha. Well done. This time, you have made a great contribution. From today onwards, you will follow this seat. Shui said. Thank you, my lord. Tian Sha knelt on the ground, his face filled with gratitude. All right, follow me to do something important. Shui said. Yes, master. Tian Sha stood up with a respectful expression. Go. Shui waved his right hand, causing ripples to appear in the air. The 2 figures disappeared in an instant. Tianluo Continent, southwest of the western region, there was a boundless desert called the Gear Desert. Although it was already winter, the Gear Desert was still steaming hot. At a glance, there was not a single person in sight. Deep underground, however, was a different scene. Dark, cold, the passageways stretched out in all directions like a maze, making it impossible for anyone to find the way out. In a huge tomb chamber, a red metal coffin that was nearly 100 feet tall lay in the center of the chamber like a mountain. The coffin was 1,000 meters long, and there were countless complicated ancient runes engraved on it, causing people to feel dizzy just by looking at it. Sitting around the coffin were demon generals with monstrous blood energy. Squeak, squeak. Incantations that could not be understood came from their mouths. Wisps of red light flew out of their palms and entered the ancient formation patterns on the coffin. On the coffin, the formation patterns lit up with a blood-red glow before gradually disappearing like fireflies. At this moment, phew, 2 figures appeared out of thin air. They were Shui Yi and Tian Sha. At the sight of this, Tian Sha's eyes widened in disbelief. "Lord, this is—" Tian Sha asked. Shui Yi smiled slightly and pretended to be mysterious. "Don't worry. You will know soon." After speaking, Shui Yi waved his right hand, took out a stool, and sat on it. "You help together," Shui Yi said. "Yes, Lord." Tian Sha retreated, sat cross-legged in front of the coffin, and muttered. Wisps of red light flew out of Tian Sha's palm and went straight into the coffin. Buzz! The metal coffin trembled slightly, as if some kind of monster was about to break out of the ground. Seeing this scene, Shui Yi nodded secretly, and the corner of his mouth raised a faint smile. If this goes on, at most 5 days, Ancestor Jiangshen will be resurrected. At that time, a smile flashed across Shui Yi's face. "Big lazy bug, get up." Sun Hao was having a sweet dream when a gentle voice entered his ears. When he opened his eyes, he saw 2 beautiful eyes staring at him. Seeing Sun Hao's gaze sweeping over, Huang Rumeng quickly withdrew her gaze. Her face was slightly red, and she stood up. "Young master, the sun is shining on your butt. Don't you have something to do today?" Hearing this, Sun Hao patted his forehead. "By the way, I have business today. I must find a place where there is no one to do the experiment." Sun Hao stood up and quickly put on his clothes. When his strong muscles saw Huang Rumeng's eyes, his face turned pink, and he quickly lowered his head. Washing, eating, and sitting on the immortal boat. Everything was done in an orderly manner. Sitting in the immortal boat, Sun Hao looked at Huang Rumeng and asked, "Rumeng, which place in the Tianluo continent has the least people or no people?" "Young master, the places where there are no people in the Tianluo continent are the 5 forbidden areas for life," Huang Rumeng said. "Forbidden areas for life?" Sun Hao frowned slightly. This kind of place was too dangerous, and it was better to go less. If you often walk by the river, how can you not wet your shoes? "Rumeng, apart from the forbidden areas for life, where else is there no people, such as the Western region? Where are there few places with few people?" Sun Hao asked. "Young master, in the Western region, in addition to the forbidden areas for life, there are 3 dangerous places: Gear Desert, Red Soaring Void, and Deep Serene Coast. These places, usually no one dares to go in." Huang Rumeng said, "There's so many places. Okay, let's test them one by one. Rumeng, let's go to the Gear Desert first." Sun Hao said, "Okay, young master." Huang Rumeng nodded, and her mind connected to the immortal boat. "Open the space jump." OM. The immortal boat disappeared in the sky instantly, and when it appeared again, it had already arrived in the middle of the Gear Desert. Retracting the flying boat, Huang Rumeng flew down with Sun Hao and stood on the desert. The heat wave was steaming, and the wind and sand were whistling. It looked like a bleak scene. "Rumeng, help me see if there is anyone around?" Sun Hao asked. "Young master, wait a moment." Huang Rumeng released her divine sense and swept around. Within 1,000 miles, everything entered her mind. Not a single figure was found. This kind of place was extremely barren. Not to mention cultivators. Even mortals were not willing to come here. "Young master, within 1,000 miles, there is no one." Huang Rumeng said, "Okay, give me that hammer." "Okay, young master." Huang Rumeng took out the hammer from the soul space. This hammer was a product of the system, which was used by Sun Hao to forge iron. The supreme iron forging technique required a lot of strength. Over the years, he had fumbled out a set of hammer techniques, named Sky Splitting Hammer Technique. Sky Splitting Hammer Technique, a total of 108 strikes. The hammer superimposed, the power doubled. Any iron, or, in his hands, could not withstand 108 strikes. Generally speaking, it only took a few strikes to remove the impurities in it. For so long, there was no metal that he could swing 10 times. He didn't know what effect it would have if he blasted it on this desert. Would it tear the heavens and split the earth apart, directly shattering the earth? It was very likely. Sun Hao held the hammer, looking a little nervous. Once successful, it meant that there was no need to collect blessing points in the future. If it failed, then he could only collect the blessing points honestly. "No matter, come on." Sana took a deep breath, clenched his fists, and gathered all his waist strength, chopping strength, and hand strength together. Ah, he growled, took the hammer, aimed at the ground, and smashed it hard. Chapter 235. Inside a huge cave under the Gear Desert. The corner of Shui Ye's lips curled up as he stared at the coffin. All right, it's almost done. I thought it would take a few days, but it seems like we can revive the old ancestor today. The heavens are helping me. Who would have guessed that Patriarch Jiangshan was here? Godly, cunning, immortal. Didn't you calculate everything? Why isn't there any reaction? Just as he finished speaking, boom, there was a loud noise. The entire cave was buzzing and trembling. Dust fell from the top of the cliff. For a moment, the cave was shrouded in dust. Shui Ye's eyebrows jumped up. The two wings on his back flapped rapidly as he shook his head. Impossible. I'd like to see who exactly you are. With that said, Blood Knight formed a seal with his right hand, muttered an incantation, and pointed with his finger. Buzz! The air in front of him trembled and rippled, forming a scene. A blurry figure wielding a hammer smashed downwards. Who is this person? Condense for me. Shui clenched his teeth and frantically transferred the power in his body. A few wisps of blood chi gushed out of his hand and entered the blurry figure. Instantly, the blurry figure gradually became clear. The blurry figure was about to appear in front of Blood Knight. At this moment, two beams of light shot out of the figure's eyes as it charged toward Shui. Buzz! Shui Ye's head seemed to have been struck by a heavy blow, causing his head to rumble and stars to appear before his eyes. Pooh! He spat out a mouthful of blood chi. Shui covered his chest with one hand and his head with the other, a pained expression on his face. Damn, this is definitely the godly, cunning, immortal. You caused the death of my tribe's priest and almost caused me serious injuries. Godly, cunning, immortal, this hatred is absolutely irreconcilable. Just you wait, I will find you myself. Shui roared, hurry up, hurry up. We can't wait any longer. Yes, master. All the generals moved quickly. He gathered all of his strength in his palm and sent it into the coffin. Boom! A loud noise came from above. Kacha! The top of the rock wall was covered in spiderweb-like cracks. Shui's expression turned grim when he saw this. If this went on, another strike would definitely cause the rock wall to collapse. At that time, everything would be for naught. Condense. Shui roared furiously, took out his staff, and swung it quickly. Blood-colored formation, runes floated out of his hand and flew to the top of the cliff. The cracks on the rock wall healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. However, boom, another loud sound rang out as the repaired cracks spread rapidly. Dust fell in all directions with a loud rumble. Damn it! Shui Ye's expression changed drastically as he frantically extracted energy from his body to repair the cracks. Boom, boom, boom. The loud noises continued without stopping. It was as if someone was swinging a giant hammer and pounding it crazily. The cracks spread out like a spider web, growing larger and larger. Shui Ye's blood-colored runes couldn't stop it at all. Boom! With a loud bang, the rock wall collapsed. Dust spread and fell rapidly. Bang! The rubble smashed into the demon generals, and the sound of explosions rang out continuously. The blood-colored shields on their bodies shook unsteadily, as if they would shatter at any moment. Ah! Shui drew on his energy to form a huge blood-colored shield that covered the entire cave. Hurry up, don't just stand there. Shui roared. Yes, Lord. All the demon generals frantically squeezed their energy and poured it into the coffin. Buzz! Above the coffin, the red light became more and more dazzling. Bang! The coffin lid was shaking violently, as if there was a monster slapping inside. Seeing this scene, the light on Shui Ye's face kept flickering. It's done, it's almost done. He muttered to himself, clenching his fists. Boom! Boom! The loud noises became more and more intense, and the power of each sound doubled. Puff! Shui spat out a mouthful of blood. The blood-colored shield also suddenly cracked. No! An unwilling roar came to an abrupt end. Like a heavy hammer, It hit Shui Ye's chest fiercely. He half-knelt on the ground, his face full of unwillingness. After he fell, bang! A group of demon generals fell to the ground one after another, fainting. Even Sky Fiend was no exception. At the same time, bang! The giant coffin lid soared into the sky and rotated rapidly, resolving the terrifying power above like a top. Bang! The rock walls around the coffin lid were rapidly exploding as if they had hit a grinder. Roar! A roar came from the coffin. A crimson claw stretched out from the coffin. A bloodthirsty and greedy aura rushed over. Immediately afterward, a 1,000-meter-tall zombie stood up in a daze. His body was crimson, and 4 fangs grew in his mouth. An unstoppable aura stretched out from his body. He was the ancestor of the demon race, Jiangchen. Jiangchen stretched out his right hand and held it on the coffin lid. The coffin lid rotated rapidly in his hand, blocking all the power in the sky. It seemed that Jiangchen was like a god of war that tore the sky and split the earth. "Welcome back, Ancestor." At the scene, Shui and Sky Fiend knelt down and began a kowtow. Jiangchen glanced at the two and couldn't help but secretly shake his head. "Get up, what's going on up there?" "Ancestor, it should be the godly cunning immortal who is attacking us," Shui said. "Godly cunning immortal? I've never heard of this person. What era is he from?" Jiangchen asked. "Ancestor, he just appeared out of nowhere. In the past year, he has calculated everything and destroyed many good things of our race," Shui said. "Just appeared? How could he be so strong?" Jiangchen's expression changed slightly. The vibrating force in the sky was getting stronger and stronger. At first, he could still resist, but the more it went, the fiercer the vibrating force became. "Damn it!" Jiangchen gritted his teeth and resisted with all his might. However, the power of the next hammer was twice as terrifying. Puff! A mouthful of blood sprayed out from Jiangchen's mouth. At this moment, Jiangchen felt a life-and-death crisis. Without any hesitation, he squeezed out a drop of blood, threw it into a jade bottle, and threw it to Shui. "You two, hurry up and leave. It'll be too late." Jiangchen poured all his power into his hand and pointed forward, forming a teleportation vortex that covered the two of them. "Ancestor," Shui roared. However, as soon as he shouted, he disappeared with Sky Fiend. After the two disappeared, "No!" Jiangchen let out an unwilling roar. "Kacha!" A sound rang out. A crack spread from Jiangchen's head down his body. Jiangchen's entire body cracked little by little. Finally, it exploded into powder. Like him, there were a group of demon generals who fainted around him. Boom! A loud noise. The entire ceiling cracked open and pressed down on the ground. The entire cave was instantly buried. Boom! The loud noise didn't stop, and it sounded regularly. The power of each sound was multiplying. The entire underground was being bombarded more and more solid. Chapter 236. Sunhao retracted his hammer and looked at the intact desert, showing a bunch of black lines on his forehead. The Sky Splitter hammer art that he had comprehended was actually useless. This was like an ordinary person attacking the sand with a hammer. The result was obvious. Am I thinking too much? This was the first time he had failed, so he couldn't help but feel disheartened. Sunhao frowned and thought secretly. Since the hammer is useless, the knife should be useful, right? Sunhao looked at Huang Romeng, and she immediately took out a kitchen knife and handed it to Sunhao. Then, Sunhao displayed various boning knife techniques. However, it did not leave any marks on the desert, not to mention tearing the heavens and splitting the earth. Not even a grain of sand disappeared. If a kitchen knife doesn't work, how about a chopper? Sunhao picked up the kitchen knife and performed the firewood chopping technique. In the end, it was useless. Apart from making the sand splatter everywhere, it didn't leave any damage. After some experiments, Sunhao completely lost his temper. That shouldn't be the case. My skills are already so powerful. How can there be no damage skills? Maybe this place is wrong. Let's try somewhere else. Thinking of this, Sunhao looked at Huang Romeng. "Romeng, let's go to the red soaring void." "Yes, young master." After Huang Rumling finished speaking, she summoned the immortal boat and disappeared into the sky with Sun Hao. When he appeared again, he was already in a certain part of the sky. Here, people could step on the sky, but they would not fall. Rumeng, is this the scarlet soaring void? Sun Hao looked at the continent below with a look of surprise. Yes, young master. It is said that this is the entrance to the secret realm left by Taoist Ling Su. Huang Rumling said. The entrance to the secret territory? Sun Hao's eyes swept around, but he did not see any entrance. Where to go in? Young master, it should be closed. I can't find the entrance. Huang Rumling smiled and shook her head. In that case, let me give it a try. Rumung, take out the zither. Yes, young master. After setting up the guqin, Sun Hao looked around and smiled slightly. Let's play this serenity song first and see if it works. Thinking so, Sun Hao began to pluck the strings. Clang. The sound of the zither reverberated outwards. A pleasant sound came from Sun Hao's fingertips. It spread in all directions and resounded throughout the world. In the void, in the Ling Su secret realm, there was a woman sitting cross-legged in front of a crystal coffin, her eyes closed as if she was cultivating. This person was none other than Taoist Ruoxi. A few months ago, Luo Luyin and Su Yiling gave her the Lingxi diagram. For the past few months, she had been trying to break through, but every time she was about to reach that threshold, she would fail every time. There seemed to be something missing. Taoist Ruoxi frowned. She seemed to have reached the most critical juncture. Clang. At this moment, the sound of the zither could be heard. When Taoist Ruoxi heard it, her brows instantly relaxed. She lay down on the ground and smiled knowingly. Gotcha! In the blink of an eye, the barrier covering her body shattered. At this moment, she finally became a profound immortal. However, this was not the end. Along with the sound of the zither, her strength continued to increase rapidly. Not long after, the zither's sound stopped, but Taoist Ruoxi remained lying on the ground, motionless. The corners of his mouth curled up, and his face was full of joy. Gotcha! The membrane on his body cracked. At this moment, she broke through to the earth immortal realm. I broke through 2 realms in a row. Which senior is helping me? Taoist Ruoxi muttered to herself, clenching her fists excitedly. It took her a long time to calm down. However, when she just stood up, clang, the sound of the zither was continuous. The invisible killing intent soared into the sky and twisted in all directions. Thousands of horses galloped. Thousands of troops fought. At this moment, the scenery in front of Taoist Ruoxi changed rapidly. She seemed to have come to a certain battlefield, turned into a small soldier, and began to fight fiercely. Her body was stained with the blood of her enemies. There was no other way. She couldn't retreat. She could only move forward. The killing intent in her heart surged for thousands of miles. In her eyes, there was only killing. Kill all enemies and protect the country behind her. Even if she was exhausted, she kept falling down. When the sound of the zither stopped, Taoist Ruoxi did not open her eyes. She quietly felt all the changes in her body, and the corners of her mouth raised slightly. After a long time, she opened her eyes. The Great Tao of Massacre. I actually comprehended the Great Tao of Massacre, and I directly reached the peak realm. In other words, I'm already a profound immortal in the Great Tao of Massacre. This is simply incredible. Just which senior is it? He actually has the power to connect the heavens and the earth. I have to go and pay my respects. Thinking like this, Taoist Ruoxi stood up and was about to walk out of the mystic realm. Clang. The sound of the zither continued. This time, the sound of the zither was sometimes fast and sometimes slow. There were no rules, no patterns, no rhythm. Taoist Ruoxi kept swaying in the sound of the zither. Sometimes here, sometimes there, it was difficult to control her body. This is the Tao rhyme of the Great Tao of space. This is too terrifying. Taoist Ruoxi muttered to herself, shocked to the extreme. She closed her eyes, sensed the surrounding Tao rhyme of space, released her mind, and let the Tao rhyme of space cleanse. After waiting for a long time, the sound of the zither stopped. Taoist Ruo, she opened her eyes. The great Tao of space is extremely difficult to comprehend. I didn't expect that I would also reach the realm of great success. Which senior is it that has helped me time and time again? I will never forget such great kindness. It's time to see that senior. After speaking, Taoist Ruo, she stood up, took a step out, and instantly disappeared from the Ling Su's secret realm. When she appeared again, she had already come to the entrance. Taoist Ruo, she scanned around with her divine sense, and couldn't help but frown slightly. Where is the senior? Where did he go? After a while, she retracted her divine sense and sighed secretly. I will always remember the kindness of a senior. When I see him in the future, I will thank him in person. After withdrawing her mood, Taoist Ruo, she glanced in the direction of Jade Lake Palace. I should go see those two little guys. I don't know how they are now. Also, it's time to see the young master. I can get out of the haze, thanks to the young master. Thinking like this, Taoist Ruo, she's figure flashed and disappeared. When she reappeared, she had already arrived above Jade Lake Palace. She glanced at Jade Lake Palace, and her eyes widened, full of disbelief. Supreme Holy Land, it's incredible. With this kind of supreme holy land, I'm afraid no one can shake Jade Lake Palace. She flew down. Taoist Ruo, she glanced around and frowned slightly. No, the mark I left on her is not here. Where the hell is it? Taoist Ruo, she frowned slightly. Who are you looking for? At this time, a disciple of Jade Lake Palace came forward and asked, I'm looking for Luo Luyan. Taoist Ruo, she said. You are? My name is Taoist Ruo. Taoist Ruo, she. Please wait a moment. I will go and inform. And after a while, the disciple came out and made a gesture of invitation. Senior, please come inside. The palace master is not here, but the holy maiden will return soon. Okay. Taoist Ruo, she followed the disciple and quickly walked into Jade Lake Palace. Chapter 237. On a flying ship flying towards the deep serene coast. Sun Hao's face was very ugly. Just now, he played 3 songs in a row. It had no effect at all. It had no lethality, nor did it break the Ling Su's secret realm. This was like a heavy blow to his chest, and it was difficult for him to bear. Am I really thinking too much? These skills of mine can only help others increase their strength, beautify their appearance, and increase their comprehension. But they're useless to me? In fact, it doesn't even have the slightest destructive power. I'm just a super nanny. Was there a need to do this? What a scam. Sun Hao murmured. His face was ashen. As a nanny, there was no way for her to survive in this world. The problem was that this nanny couldn't heal him yet. Wasn't this too much of a scam? Try again if it still doesn't work, then go back to collect blessing points. Sun Hao thought secretly and made a decision in his heart. Young master, are we going to jump through space? Huang Rumeng asked. No need, just fly over directly. Sun Hao said. Yes, young master. Huang Rumeng nodded slightly. Western region, northwest coast. This stretch of coast, because it was close to the boundless ocean, was also known as the abyssal coast. Throughout the year, not a single person could be seen. Phew! The cold wind whistled, and the snow swirled. The earth was wrapped in silver. The dusky sky seemed to be pressing down. In a certain underground cave, the corpse puppet clan's patriarch, Mo Hun, sat in the main seat, looking at his subordinates. On the skinless side of his face, the eyeballs kept moving. Is everything ready? Mo Hun asked. Patriarch, get ready. As long as the godly cunning immortal enters the great array, he will definitely not return. Mo Hun nodded. Jia, where is the godly cunning immortal now? Clan leader is on his way here. He'll be here soon. Hearing this, Mo Hun nodded slightly. The high priest is indeed a divine strategist. Knowing that the godly cunning immortal will come here is not wrong at all. Godly cunning immortal. Can't you calculate everything? How about this time? This time, no matter how powerful you are, I'll make sure you have no way out. Mo Hun said each word. His face was full of resentment. On the ground, in the wind and snow, 4 blurry figures approached from afar. One of them was riding on a unicorn. His eyebrows were covered with frost. This person was Ningmingji. Behind him were a monkey, a pig, and an arhut. "Oh, it's so cold. My old pig is about to become a frozen pig. Master, let's take a break and warm ourselves by the fire," said the pig demon. "You dead pig, what are you afraid of? Master is immortal." Yet he didn't say anything. The monkey demon said, "Monkey, look over there." The pig demon pointed ahead and said, "That's the boundless sea. Master, we've arrived at the boundless ocean." The monkey demon said, "Finally, the boundless ocean. This old pig is so tired." The pig demon sat down. "Master, we've already walked tens of thousands of kilometers. Let's take a break." Bang! He struck the pig demon's head hard. The pig demon held his head and ran to Ningmingji's side. "Master, the monkey hit me again." "That's because you're asking for it. How come you're tired from the journey?" "Which time has it not been this old monkey who has taken action?" said the monkey demon. "Master, I clearly okay." Ningmingji shouted softly, and the two monsters immediately quieted down. Ningmingji looked ahead, his face full of worry. "Master, what's wrong with you? Is there a monster?" asked the monkey demon. "No." Ningmingji sighed heavily. "What I'm worried about is that there's no way to complete what the young master has assigned." "Master, what do you mean?" "The young master said that we will experience 91 hardships on our journey to the west. Now, don't mention hardships. There isn't even a single obstacle. Everything is going too smoothly." Ningmingji said, "Master, where's there no hardships? We've all become frozen pigs. It's so cold, isn't this hardships? Even if this isn't. 3 days ago, I was so hungry that my eyes were dizzy, and I lost a lot of weight. This is finally right. Also, the last time I met a lion demon, it bit a hole in my pants. It's also a hardships, right?" When the pig demon's words reached Ningmingji's ears, a bunch of black lines appeared on his forehead. "Okay," Ningmingji shouted softly, and the pig demon immediately quieted down. "Master, is the lion demon I killed last time not counted?" said the monkey demon. "It doesn't count." Ningmingji shook his head for a while. "You killed the lion demon with a stick, and we ate for 3 days. How is this a hardships? It's obviously enjoyment." The monkey demon's expression stagnated. "Master, then I'll be gentler next time." "Don't." Ningmingji waved his hand. "If you don't do your best, it's perfunctory. The young master will naturally know. These 91 hardships must be dealt with all our strength." Ningmingji said, "Master, I understand." The monkey demon nodded. "Monkey, it's all your fault. If you were weak, we would have gone through the 81 hardships. This is great. These 81 hardships can't be completed at all." The pig demon looked at the monkey demon and sneered. "Hey, you're asking for a beating." The monkey demon rushed up with his stick and fought with the pig demon. Ding, the sound of metal colliding sounded constantly. After a while, "Ouch, don't hit my face." "Master, help. The monkey is killing the pig." "Smelly monkey, dead monkey, this old pig will not let you go." "Grandpa monkey, don't hit me. I was wrong, okay?" The drought demon looked at this scene and laughed foolishly. Eldest senior brother and second senior brother are really messing around. It's fun. I will play for a while too. After saying that, the drought demon picked up the pole and rushed over. Seeing this scene, the pig demon and the monkey demon's face changed drastically, and without thinking, they immediately dispersed. "Eldest senior brother, second senior brother, play for a while," said the drought demon. Hearing this, the two demons broke out in cold sweat. "Who dares to play with a pervert like you? Last time I was almost killed by you." "Fourth junior brother, this game is not suitable for you to play," said the pig demon. "I think it's fun. Take me to play next time," said the drought demon. Definitely. The pig demon secretly wiped his cold sweat and looked at the monkey demon. Seeing him nod, he secretly breathed a sigh of relief. After the fight, everyone returned to Ningmingji's side and looked ahead with him. "Let's go." Ningmingji shouted softly and took the lead to walk forward. The other 3 followed closely behind. Soon after, The three stood by the sea. A cold wind blew past. In the snow, there was suddenly a thick black smoke. In the blink of an eye, it wrapped several people up. Looking at this scene, Ning Mingji's eyes were full of light. The first difficulty is finally here, Ning Mingji said. The first difficulty? The pig demon narrowed his eyes and looked over, and his scalp exploded. Master, this is too scary. After saying that, the pig demon carried the rake and moved back. However, before he ran 2 steps, he stopped. Boom! He slammed into an invisible barrier, bounced to the ground, and bit a mouthful of ice and snow. Everyone's line of sight was blocked, and they couldn't see the surroundings clearly. At this time, a burst of laughter came from the black mist. Godly cunning immortal, you also have this day? Even if the God of heaven comes, he can't save you. Today you all must die here. The voice came from all directions, like thunder in everyone's ears. Humph! The monkey demon snorted coldly. 4th junior brother, protect master. Leave the rest to me. Okay, eldest senior brother. The drought demon guarded Ning Mingji behind him with a cautious face. Pretending to be mysterious, break for me. The monkey demon waved the iron rod, aimed at the front, and smashed it. Buzz! There was a shock. The black mist collapsed, and within a radius of 2 miles, it turned into a vacuum. The monkey demon hadn't reacted yet. When he looked up, his pupils couldn't help but shrink. He saw a big dark hand covering the sky reach down toward the monkey demon. The monkey demon's face changed drastically and fled frantically. It's just that it was too late. A little monkey demon dared to be presumptuous, die. Accompanied by this sound, the big hand covering the sky descended from the sky and slammed heavily on the monkey demon. Boom! The ground shook and ice and snow splashed. The earth bulged and exploded and rose. The monkey demon was slapped into the ground and disappeared. Chapter 238. Boom! Boom! The big hand covering the sky descended from the sky and kept bombarding the monkey demon's body. Every time, it would shake the snow on the ground, and snow foam splashed. Can't withstand a single blow. A little monkey demon dares to be brave. A sneer came from the sky. Little monkey die. After saying that, the giant hand covering the sky continued to slap the ground. Boom! Boom! Snow mixed with dust, forming a shock wave, attacked in all directions. Dong dong. It hit the barrier in front of the drought demon, making a thumping sound. Suddenly, roar! A roar shook the mountains and rivers. Under the big hand covering the sky, a golden giant ape quickly grew bigger. He put his hands on the big hand covering the sky, gritting his teeth and roaring. A Buddhist seal, blooming with dazzling light, blasted on the big hand covering the sky. ZZ. The Buddhist seal carried a terrifying power, burning the black mist of the big hand covering the sky. Oh! The big hand covering the sky retracted as if it was electrocuted. Break for me! The golden giant ape, holding the iron rod, jumped up, crashed into the black cloud, and smashed down with the rod. Boom! There was a loud noise, the earth shook and the mountains shook. A golden light, straight to the sky. Wherever it went, the black gas dissipated. The whole world was buzzing and trembling, as if it was about to collapse. Little monkey, this seat has underestimated you. You want to deal with this seat with just this little ability, die? After this sound, the black gas was endless, rushing over quickly. In the blink of an eye, it once again enveloped the surrounding area. The black gas was like ink, devouring all the light. At this moment, the golden giant ape seemed to have lost his eyes, unable to see anything clearly. He kept waving the iron rod, knocking in all directions. However, the black gas was like silk wrapped around the iron rod, unable to move at all. Boom! 2 big hands covering the sky whistled from both sides. Like swatting a mosquito, it slapped on the golden giant ape. Buzz! The golden giant ape's head roared, buzzing. He gritted his teeth and roared, struggling to hold on. The iron rod in his hand was difficult to swing. Buzz! Another 2 slaps flew over. This time, the power was even more terrifying. The surrounding space shattered like a mirror. Pooh! The golden ape spat out a mouthful of blood and crashed into the ground like a kite with a broken string. Boom! The explosion created a cloud of dust. You overestimate yourself. You dare to fight with me? A contemptuous voice came from the sky. Little monkey, die. The sky-covering hand descended from the sky. A terrifying pressure descended from the sky, bringing with it black threads. It was like a black river pouring down from the 9 heavens. The terrifying pressure made it impossible for anyone to resist. The sky-covering hand was about to smash the giant golden ape into dust. At this moment, ow! There was an angry roar. Hitorigami's body transformed rapidly. In the blink of an eye, he turned into a 1,000-meter-tall giant. His entire body was emitting a dazzling golden light, making it hard for people to look at him directly. Hitorigami stretched out his hand and grabbed onto the gigantic hand that covered the sky. Then he raised his fist, aimed at the sky, and threw a punch. Boom! Heaven and earth trembled, and boundless waves of chi surged. The black mist evaporated and exploded. A 2,000-meter-tall black giant appeared. He stared at the Hitorigami, and his skinless face was full of a playful smile. Little bug, you want to fight with me, die? The black giant raised his sky-covering fist, aimed at the Hitorigami, and punched down. Boom! The air seemed to be shattered, and the sound of explosions rang out continuously. Before the Hitorigami could react, the fist hit the Hitorigami directly. Dang dang. The Hitorigami stepped back and hit the ground heavily. Boom! There was a loud noise. The entire mountain under the Hitorigami's buttocks directly shattered. Humph! The Hitorigami struggled, snorted coldly, and rushed straight to the black giant. Humph! You are my puppet, and you dare to attack me, die. The black giant's sky-covering hand descended from the sky. The terrifying pressure made it difficult for the Hitorigami to move. The sky-covering hand grabbed the Hitorigami's neck and pressed him into the ground. He raised his fist, aimed at the Hitorigami's head, and blasted it heavily. Boom! Boom! The loud noise continued, and the entire earth was shaking. The Hitorigami kept struggling. However, in front of the black giant, there was no chance to struggle at all. His head was roaring, and he screamed again and again. Master, let's escape, or we'll be too late. The pig demon looked at this scene. His pupils contracted, and his face changed dramatically. Ning Mingji did not answer him, but sat cross-legged on the ground, put his hands together, and began to chant. Sarara. A series of scriptures gushed out of his mouth. Like golden butterflies flying all over the sky, they divided into 2 lines and went straight to the Hitorigami and the monkey demon. Under the blessing of the scriptures, the 2's injuries recovered quickly. The aura on the 2's bodies was also expanding rapidly. Damn evil race, break for me. The golden giant ape soared into the sky, and the iron rod in his hand emitted a golden light. Under his control, it grew rapidly. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a heavenly pillar, aimed at the black giant's head, and smashed down fiercely. Buzz! There was a sound of metal colliding. The black giant's head roared, and he was seeing stars. He stretched out his hand and grabbed the iron rod. With a gentle pull, the golden giant ape's body and the iron rod were pulled over. He raised his palm and slapped at the golden giant ape. Boom! There was a loud noise. The golden giant ape was smashed into the ground. On the other side, roar! The Hitorigami let out a roar and threw out the Buddha beads. Swish! The Buddha beads turned into countless golden beads, making a sound of breaking through the air and slammed into the black giant. Boom! Boom! The sound of explosions kept ringing. Boom! The black giant fell heavily to the ground. The black gas on his body kept dissipating. He struggled to get up, his eyes staring at the Hitorigami as if he wanted to swallow it. Boom! Boom! The Hitorigami stepped forward and rushed toward the black giant step by step. The black giant saw this scene, and his face was extremely ugly. Damn it, don't force this seat, otherwise you will all die. The black giant gritted his teeth. However, it was useless. The Hitterigami didn't listen to this at all. In his eyes, there was only anger. In that case, die. The black giant let out a roar. The black gas on his body surged up. The injuries on his body recovered rapidly. At the same time, his body was expanding rapidly, and in the blink of an eye, it grew to 3,000 meters. The terrifying black gas rushed straight to the ninth heaven. Unparalleled pressure poured down from the sky, and in an instant, it pressed on everyone. At this moment, the Hitterigami, the monkey demon, and the pig demon were unable to move. Even Ning Mingji's chanting speed slowed down by 90%, and he couldn't spit out a word for a long time. Despair emerged in everyone's heart. This is what you forced me to do. All the members of my clan are sacrificed. You must pay the price. Today, even if God of Heaven comes, he can't save you. Godly cunning immortal, the first to die must be you. The black giant stared at Ning Mingji, his eyes full of anger. He stretched out 2 fingers and pinched toward Ning Mingji. Seeing this scene, the pig demon's face changed dramatically, hiding behind Ning Mingji, shivering. Seeing that, the 2 fingers were about to pinch Ning Mingji. Chapter 239. This is the Abyss Coast. Through the immortal boat, Sun Hao looked at the gray scenery on the coast and could not help but frown slightly. Young master, yes. Huang Roma nodded. It's snowing. The scenery is good. Sun Hao looked at the snow around him and nodded secretly. Yes, very beautiful. Young master, do you want to play a song? Huang Ruming said. Rumung, why don't you play the zither and I play the sun? Sun Hao said. Young master, what song would you like? Besieged on all sides. Sun Hao said. Yes, young master. The 2 of them began to move. Boom! The faint sound of the zither reverberated out. Ooh! It was a whimpering sound, as if it was complaining. The 2 sounds blended together and were indistinguishable. The ancient voice echoed for thousands of miles in all directions. A sense of sorrow and desolation surged towards the 9 heavens and 10 earths. Within a radius of 10,000 kilometers, everything was silent. At this moment, even the flying snow stopped, listening to this song of vicissitudes and sorrow. On the endless coast, godly cunning immortal die. The black giant let out a roar, and the 2 giant fingers blasted down at Ning Mingji. The terrifying might caused the surrounding air to distort and explode, seeing that it was about to hit Ning Mingji. At this moment, you dare touch my master? Die. The drought demon's entire body emitted a golden light that filled the sky as it crashed into the black giant. Thud, thud. The black giant's body was unsteady as he staggered backward. Damn it! The black giant raised his fist and smashed it down at Hitterigami. Bang! With a loud sound, the drought demon was smashed into the ground. The pole in his hand flew into the distance and smashed heavily into the ground. Hitterigami struggled to get up. What greeted him was a gigantic fist that blotted out the sky, smashing down. The terrifying airwaves caused his face to tremble. At this moment, an endless chill surged through his body. In his heart, he could not muster the slightest strength to resist. Am I going to die? Hamba looked at the shocking fist, and a look of despair appeared on his face. 4th junior brother. The golden ape let out an unwilling roar as it struggled to stand up. However, it was useless. The terrifying pressure was like millions of mountains pressing down on his body, making it impossible for him to take a step forward. Disciple. Ning Mingji's face showed great shock. Just as he shouted, he was swept away by the pressure and flew out heavily. Master. The unicorn stepped on the air, caught Ning Mingji, and took him away from the battlefield. No. The pig demon kept struggling under the pressure and flew far away. Everyone watched helplessly as the black fist flew towards Hitterigami. The drought demon was about to be blasted into pieces on the spot. At this moment, woo, boom, a faint voice came from the void. A sense of sorrow and desolation spread throughout the 9 heavens and 10 earths. Paired with the snow-white background, one could not help but feel sorrowful. The gigantic fist that blotted out the sky froze in midair, motionless. Phew! Balls of black energy flew out of the black giant's body. This black energy floated in the sky like a soul, quietly listening to these desolate sounds. Woo! Whimpering sounds rang out incessantly. More and more black gas left the black giant and danced in the air. No, a roar rang out. The black giant pressed down on his head, preventing the black gas from leaving. However, it was useless. The black gas did not have a physical body, so no matter what he did, he could not stop it. Damn it, come back quickly, otherwise my clan will be in danger. If the godly cunning immortal is not eliminated, we will never be reincarnated. Come back quickly. The black giant roared wildly, looking at Ning Mingji in the distance, stepped forward like a giant foot, and went straight to Ning Mingji. Godly cunning immortal, you must die. Boom! There was a loud noise. The black giant was knocked to the ground. He covered his ears with his hands and looked at the void. Damn it, stop playing. Please stop bragging. No. A roar of unwillingness sounded. His body split apart uncontrollably little by little. A pitch-black corpse slid down from his body and fell to the ground, turning into a pool of pus, and the stench soared to the sky. In the black giant's body, a corpse fell to the ground. See, these corpses melted at a speed visible to the naked eye and finally disappeared on the spot. In the end, only the corpse puppet patriarch, Mo Hun, was left. He fell to the ground, stretched out his skeletal claws, stared at Ning Mingji, and crawled toward him step by step. Damn godly cunning immortal. You must die, must die. Woo! The sound of mourning in the sky came from time to time. The flesh and blood on Mo Hun's body melted quickly. Kacha! The entire thigh broke off and separated from the body. He still did not stop and continued to crawl forward. Wisps of black smoke burned on his back, and half of his body melted. But he still didn't stop and crawled forward. He didn't stop until the flesh and blood on his body disappeared cleanly. That skeleton was full of unwillingness. Boom! A gust of wind passed, and the skeleton directly broke into powder and disappeared. Woo! In the void, the rhythm continued to sound. It gradually changed from sadness to warmth. Ning Mingji turned over the unicorn, sat cross-legged on the ground, and showed a closed-eyes cultivation appearance. The unicorn incarnation of a man in white also sat cross-legged beside Ning Mingji, smiling. Master, the young master saved us. Drought Demon looked at the sky. His body shrank rapidly, and with a step, he came to Ning Mingji's side, sat down cross-legged, and put his hands together. The young master is really a great power. The giant golden ape turned into a human and came to Ning Mingji's side. The pig demon struggled to stand up, looked at Ning Mingji, and then looked at the void. There was a touch of fear on his face. Then he also came to Ning Mingji's side and sat cross-legged on the ground. On the faces of the 5 people, there were smiles. The strength of their bodies was rapidly increasing. Their entire talent was also advancing by leaps and bounds. Even if the rhythm disappeared for a long time, the few of them did not open their eyes. After a long time, the 5 people opened their eyes one after another, and their faces showed infinite joy. The young master's means are simply unimaginable. This old monkey is much stronger. The monkey demon said. Ning Mingji stood up and looked in the direction of the great demon mountain, his face showing infinite gratitude. Then he took his 4 apprentices and bowed deeply. Thank you for your life-saving grace. Thank you for your good fortune. Young master, don't worry. We will definitely complete the task you gave us. This trip, we will rely on ourselves, and we will not let you take action again. Ning Mingji muttered to himself, and it took a long time to calm down. Apprentices, prepare to go west. Ning Mingji said, Yes, master. The 4 nodded in unison. Master, let's go from the north, where the sea is frozen, and we can go straight to Elysium. The monkey demon said. No. Ning Mingji shook his head slightly and pointed to the front. Let's go here. What? Master, There's the endless sea, which is extremely dangerous. Legend has it that those who entered it did not come out. Hearing this, Ning Mingji smiled slightly. It is because it is dangerous that we have to go in. Why? The pig demon's face was full of surprise. Because we need to gather all 81 difficulties. Let's go. There are still 80 difficulties left. After saying that, Ning Mingji took a step forward step by step. Every step he took, a golden scripture appeared under his feet, taking him quickly. When the four saw this scene, they couldn't help but widen their eyes, and their faces were full of shock. Master's strength is probably not weaker than ours. Let's go. The 5 figures gradually went away. Chapter 240. On an island in the endless sea, in a tall tower covered with skulls. The soul flame and ghost candle's empty eye sockets danced fiercely. Killing intent surged and swept out in all directions. In front of him, a clan leader was crawling on the ground, shivering. Say that again. Ghost Candle's voice was cold. My lord, the people we sent to the western regions have all disappeared. A clan leader's voice trembled as he buried his head in the ground. Trash! What's the use of you? Ghost Candle extended his skeletal claw, and a grayish-white flame rose from his fingers. Master, spare me. The clan leader knelt on the ground and begged for mercy. You can't even handle such a small matter. Die. The flames in Ghost Candle's hand were about to blast out. At this moment, Master, Master, a series of shouts came from afar. Then, several figures arrived at the scene. Plop, one by one, they all knelt on the ground. These people were all the other patriarchs of the evil races. What is it? Why are you so flustered? Ghost Candle asked. My lord, the 10,000 clansmen that my clan sent were attacked in the northern region of the Tianluo continent, and they were all annihilated. My lord, the 20,000 clansmen of my clan who were hiding in the southern domain of the Tianluo continent have all been found and annihilated. Hearing this news, the soul flames in Ghost Candle's eye sockets trembled unceasingly, letting out a series of howls. His expression was one of extreme rage. Trash! All of you are trash. Just why is this happening? Ghost Candle asked, restraining his anger. Lord, it's all because of the godly cunning immortal. He sent the flower fairies to kill our clan members from time to time. Furthermore, under the leadership of the Evil Suppressing Alliance, the humans have banded together and formed hunting teams to specifically target us. Hearing this news, Ghost Candle sat in place, motionless. Only the 2 soul flames in his eye sockets were still beating. Godly cunning immortal? Ghost Candle clenched his fists, his knuckles cracking. Report. Right at this moment, a messenger skeleton quickly came over. What is it? Reporting to the Lord, the ink soul lamp has been extinguished. The corpse puppet race must have been completely annihilated. As soon as he said this, Ghost Candle staggered. The entire corpse puppet clan was annihilated? Is that true? Ghost Candle asked. Master, it's absolutely true. In order to destroy the godly cunning immortal, Mo Hun led all the clansmen to attack and used the heavenly puppet's secret technique. Presumably, he still died in the hands of the godly cunning immortal. As soon as these words came out, the surroundings were deathly silent. The eyes of the patriarchs were filled with fear. Damn it, it's you again, godly cunning immortal. Let me fight you. Just as Ghost Candle was about to make his move, suddenly, layers of ripples appeared in front of him. 2 figures walked out from the ripples and suddenly appeared in front of Ghost Candle. Ghost Candle's soul flame rapidly trembled. It's you? Blood Knight. Brother Ghost Candle, do you hate me that much? Blood Knight smiled. Since you're here, nothing good will come of it. Ghost Candle snorted coldly. This is great news. The 2 wings behind Shui Yi flapped, and a barrier enveloped them. If you have something to say, then say it. Ghost Candle said. Brother Gui Zhu, are you worried about the godly cunning immortal? Blood Knight asked. Ghost Candle's soul flame was slightly startled, then nodded. How do you know? I'm also worried about the godly cunning immortal. This person has ruined my good deeds time and time again. The people of my clan lurking in the Tianluo continent were all killed. Fortunately, I have a few preparations, so he didn't succeed. After saying that, Blood Knight waved his right hand, and a phantom condensed and formed. This person's appearance was exactly the same as Ujizi. It's him, Blood Knight said. You are the godly cunning immortal? Ghost Candle asked. That's right. Blood Knight nodded. No, you're mistaken. This is the godly cunning immortal. After saying that, Ghost Candle also condensed a figure. This person's appearance was exactly the same as Ningmingji. Both of them stood there stupidly, motionless, for a long time. It seems that we've all made a mistake, Blood Knight said. Impossible. Ghost Candle shook his head slightly. The godly cunning immortal calculated everything, laid out in advance, and ruined my clan's good deeds everywhere. With such means, who can do it except that bald donkey of Elysium? Ghost Candle said. Brother Ghost Candle, you're right. With such ability, no one can do it except that bald donkey of Elysium. However, Brother Ghost Candle, don't you know that bald donkey has the method of transforming into thousands of bodies? Blood Knight said. As soon as these words came out, Ghost Candle froze in place and didn't move for a long time. Damn it, this godly cunning immortal is too cunning. I've been fooled. Ghost Candle clenched his fists, and his joints exploded. Brother Ghost Candle, since that bald donkey is so cunning, I have a plan. I don't know if you'd like to hear it. Blood Knight said. Let's hear it. Ghost Candle said. Since that bald donkey has transformed into thousands of bodies, presumably his main body must be in Elysium. We just need to find his main body. And then Blood Knight made a throat-slitting gesture. Blood Knight, did you not wake up today? Go to Elysium with just us? That's their lair. What's the difference between going there and courting death? Ghost Candle shook his head for a while. Brother Ghost Candle, don't worry. Listen to me first. Since I put it forward, there must be a way. But, Blood Knight said. But what? Ghost Candle asked. Brother Ghost Candle, presumably you have the blood essence of the drought demon on you, right? Blood Knight asked. Blood Knight, you coming here is really not a good thing. Ghost Candle said. Brother Ghost Candle, don't worry. I'm not here to ask you for it. I'm here to find you and do that big thing together. Blood Knight said. You are a dignified demon race, frightening people. How can you need my help? Ghost Candle shook his head for a while. Brother Ghost Candle, don't say that. You and my two races are the same breath and branch. One glory, one loss, all loss. With the godly cunning immortal here, none of us will benefit. As long as that thing is done, we can definitely make that bald donkey pay a heavy price. Blood Knight said. Hearing this, the soul flame in Ghost Candle's eye sockets gradually calmed down. That expression seemed to be thinking. A moment later. Even so what? Relying on my drop alone is not enough. Ghost Candle said. Brother Ghost Candle, don't worry. I already have the other 3 drops. Blood Knight said. What? In Ghost Candle's eye sockets, the soul flame jumped rapidly. What exactly should we do? Blood Knight smiled slightly, pretending to be mysterious. I have learned a top secret news. In half a month, the dragon race will attack the Tianluo continent and massacre the human race. With that old bald donkey's personality, he will definitely not sit idly by. We just need to choose that time point to do this big thing. Blood Knight said. This method is not bad, but how to divide it? Ghost Candle asked. Half and half. That's fine.